Hello, my fellow randoms. My name is Kev Duffy, and welcome to this, our 29th episode of What's Your Random podcast, where I discover and celebrate independent and individual creativity from the inception of an idea to the process and the practicalities of bringing that idea to life so that it can be shared and communicated with others. Welcome back if this is not your first time, and welcome to newcomers as well. If it isn't your first time, please do go back and share whatever episode made you come back for more, because we are pushing in an effort to grow this podcast and put the voice of my guests into the ears of other creatives so that they may benefit from the conversations we have and the lessons learned from each other, essentially. So please do share if one episode or more did strike you. Joining me today on this, our 29th episode, is Andre Luis Kerman Merlin, aka ALK Merlin. You could find him at ALK Merlin or ALK Merlin on Instagram, and he is an illustrator of comics among many other things. And I came upon his work because he drew Lanier Burton's Penny Peculiar, which is a fantastic story as well as a beautifully illustrated comic. Yeah, I was excited to speak with ALK in particular because his style is so well defined, and we explored that over the course of my conversation, and also explored his process because he is colorblind, and it was interesting to talk about how that factored into how he produces material for others to view who view things from a very different lens. So that was really interesting. And then we also went into, what brought him to where he is today, being a Brazilian in a international working landscape, that he could work remotely and overseas to produce pictures and illustrations and drawings for comic writers across the world, and some differences in the way that our countries work and function culturally, and what it means to be connected in such a way with so many cultures at one time. We dug into a lot, and I hope that you enjoy all of the holes that we dug, and hopefully find some inspiration buried here and there. So without further ado, joining me on What's Your Random podcast again is ALK Merlin. Enjoy the random.
Yes. Okay.
Awesome. How are you? How you doing?
I'm fine. And you?
I'm doing great. Yeah. Thank you for joining me and rushing home from somewhere.
I was just meeting my girlfriend, just hanging out and stuff. It's like 19 p.m. here. So I finished my work at 5:30, 6 p.m., like 18, 17. So just like, give a hi and go back home.
Yeah, very nice. Where are you in Brazil?
I live in South. It's Paraná, the name. It's really close to Argentina and Paraguay. It's like there is a really famous city around here called Foz do Iguaçu, which has like the Cataratas Falls, and like Itaipu, that is, I think, top 5 biggest energy producing around water thing. I don't know the name.
Yeah, some generator.
Portuguese. Yeah, and okay, this my roommate is right. And then and then just and it's like one of the biggest things. I already did a work for it like 1 year ago. It was really fun. I don't think it was published because it was done for schools only. Like it's educational material for schools. But since we had the pandemic and stuff, it wasn't printed out yet.
So you did some writing about that I guess it's a hydroelectric plant.
Yeah, hydroelectric plant. Yeah, it's one of, if I'm not mistaken, it's like top three hydroelectric plant of the world, or was top five or
Wow.
three, or something about that. It's really cool. I got it with a friend here. I live in Cascavel. It's like 100 kilometers from Foz do Iguaçu, and it's really like cool how things develop because they were looking for like local artists to produce, and mostly it's sometimes those things like affect a lot of the producing of the pieces here. So I end up getting a lot of materials just based from locally, and that's really cool because I'm usually working abroad. I never like do things here for. I stopped working like for Cascavel specifically like in 2017, 18, because the market wasn't really what was looking for. It,
And specifically, you were doing. So let me introduce you really
yeah,
quick.
yeah, yeah,
We already jumped into a great conversation. My
yeah,
guest today is Andre Luis Kerman Merlin,
yeah.
aka ALK Merlin, ALK Merlin. And I came across ALK here. Do you go by ALK or ALK or Merlin? What's the best way to call you today?
I don't have something like really defined for it. Like my friends call me Merlin, but I don't. I like ALK is really cool. I think you met with Scratch Comics
Yeah,
from Scratch,
yep,
right?
yeah. So I
And he
had
calls me ALK.
Lanier.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Lanier. Yeah, he calls me ALK. And then I just like, oh, that's cool. That's really cool. I just let him.
that's the challenge when you have so many potential cool names. You don't know which one to make your main one,
Yeah.
your focus.
Uh, since like when I was like going in teen years, I was like, oh, my name is really cool because I can get like all the like the letters and arrange it and just use it all. So I was just like, oh, I just go with the flow about it. It's really
Yeah, and
cool.
it
My
fits. It has a
yeah,
vowel at an appropriate place.
yeah, it's like it has the K on it. The K is like right on the like most of in the last place, and it sounds really cool. My dad actually, their friends call him Merlin a lot, and he call him like here in Brazil we add the own to the end to call it something big, like bigger. So, but we say like a Merlin zone, like it's a big Merlin. And then, and then I was like, among the years, I was being calling
Were
just
you
Merlin because
Merlinito or something like
yeah,
that?
yeah, not really Ito, but like a small one. And it's really funny because I have a brother, but my brother he started like studying on another on a capital, so he never like developed among these years with me. So I was most Merlin in my by Merlin zone because my brother was studying abroad. Like so, like Merlin. It's something like I'm more accustomed to call, but ALK is I'm getting there, you know.
Well, yeah, all of your names are good, so maybe I'll call you Alkir and Merlin there, and we'll
Yeah,
just
yeah,
go with the flow. But I did come across you because you illustrated Lanier Burton's from scratch comics, um, Penny Peculiar,
yeah.
and we talked when I spoke with him. We spoke about many things, including your art and what a awesome style it is and relatable style. So I was really excited that you were willing to come on as a guest and discuss your art and your life and hydroelectric plants. So,
Hydroelectric
uh,
plants. Yeah,
so my guest today is ALK Merlin, and we're already into a conversation.
yeah.
So
You're
you
gonna
were
have to
doing
cut a lot of
some.
things because I talked. I go all the places about it.
That's
I think.
then
I
you're
think
the
that.
perfect guest for me if that's the case.
I think me and Lanier like got linked well together because we're like just going everywhere when we were talking. And then we could just like set up on one conversation, and he have like that other like spirit that you make believe in him. Like he's really good at promoting like his stuff, and he makes you really comfortable, like being and working with him, you know. So I think we link it well because I just look at Lanier and I was like, oh, this guy is like starting his thing, and I'm also starting my thing, and I feel really comfortable because I can see like where he wants to be, and he's really clear about where he wants to be, and I felt really good because man, when you're giving me like a big chance on most things, you know, I'm from interior of Paraná, like the countryside. It's like it's like finding a pin in a haystack almost, because I'm from a place really far from like most new sites development. Actually, my city is very famous for the wrong reasons. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, it's kind of like we call it Twin Peaks from Paraná.
Tweet.
It's yeah, like the most crazy things happen here, like from like I don't know, tigers on the lake, tigers escaping the zoo. Yeah, we have some crazy stories about like there was like a creepypasta that was really famous on Brazil among like 2010s, 20 I'm sorry, to 2010s, 2000, and it like the it's like you know the Ring, the movie
Uh-huh.
The Ring,
The
and
movie?
it's about like it's inspired on the movie The Ring, and it's like it's a creepypasta, and the girl from the creepypasta was from Cascavel, Paraná. Like it's really crazy how it started, and there's a lot of stories about like Cascavel, Paraná. There's like I'm telling you, like it's Paraná is really crazy because Paraná is like a bunch of farmers and country stuff, but like Cascavel is really famous from some weird stuff.
Interesting. Is
Yeah,
there a small downtown city, or is it quite the whole thing is quite rural?
it's a small downtown country city. It has like you can travel the whole city in under I would say like 1.5 an hour. Mostly you can like get
Just walking
to
around and
with car. Walking around will take you like 3 4 hours, but the city has like the older smaller cities around it. So it's starting to become like a bigger city by the years passing by. So, because like Cascavel is getting, it's like eating the other cities and
yeah,
becoming
they're kind
one.
of
Yeah,
absorbing and
absorbing, and you can see it happening. Like just like we have Curitiba, it's the kernel of my state. It's just the same thing with what happens, and it's starting happening here. It's gonna take like probably another I don't know 100 years to like become some really big thing, but it's you can see it growing like a faster rate. I think it's like the sixth or fifth bigger city in the state.
oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I mean, and I guess the reason Linear found you is because your art is so good. And you're saying that you're just starting and just beginning. I'm really curious, how you started your career in art and what your foundation is. I
Uh,
noticed your Instagram only started in 2018 or so, which it's not
yeah,
so long ago.
yeah, I like resetted, like I started over because I had like old art that wasn't really what I was representing like. So I think there is a few photos from 2016, 17, something like that. But I started doing art around that time. It was because I decided to do advertising college. I would say it's here. It's not the same as the United States, the type of education. So, but with 18 years, usually people choose their college and go to like 4 years on college.
Okay.
It's like how to explain. We have like classes like 4 hours every day from Monday to Friday on college, and usually 3 to 4 years the medium. Some colleges are 2 years, some colleges are like 4 years. It depends
It
on
sounds
how
it sounds
many.
somewhat similar to US.
Yeah.
Once we graduate college or
Hmm.
once we graduate high school, we go to
High
a,
school. Yeah.
4 year
It's
school or a 2 year school. Yeah.
yeah. So advertising here, we call it like publicidade and propaganda. It's like design, advertising, communication, like social communications. We'll also call it. It has at the time I did because it changes a lot over the years, how it's structured and how it's like perceived. But at the time when I did it, I think I most started in 2014. I was trying to be a video editor and work with advertising and agencies and whatnot. I started working at it with 16. I'm 25 now. And it was really because my mom knew a guy and he had an agency and he just like, oh, try this, try that. And before the college, I started working on there just to see how it was. Like, just to get the hang of things, and I was like, oh, I wanna work on videos. I was really into like MVs and things like that. I got really cultural aspect. I started watching lots of wrestling at the time, and it's not really big here in Brazil, but at the time it started on national television, and I was not really into it. All my friends was, and one of my friends like got the hang of it and just stopped watching. I just keep it on it, and I was really fan of wrestling and all the things. I started
like a
developing
WW or
yeah,
WWE,
yeah,
and
WWE, yeah. I
and the
started
current one or nostalgic like older one.
I think I started like liking the nostalgic one more than the current one, and I started like watching indies, really stuff like from like PWG. At the time, Ring of Honor was really big, and some other like Shikara at the time was just starting, and Shikara was like it was like a wrestling based on comics. They had even a stable of ants, which was wrestlers. And then like for like a 15 years old, 14 years old, like it just goes live. Because I was really into like global culture. I started off 10, 11 because my brother used to play a lot of games and he would translate for me. He was an English teacher at the time, and then I started talking and understanding English, and then the internet just you go book wild with it's like this everywhere. And
that,
I
that
found
answers one
wrestling.
of my questions is why your
Yeah.
English is so good. So you already answered that
Oh,
question.
I tried. Like I don't speak much. Like speaking, I type. I type a lot because I work with everyone from around the globe right now. And like I did like an English major at the time, like this um, in English school when I have my English major at the time. But uh, most of it, like when I went to school, I was like jumped 2 years over the course because I had like a test where I was like, oh,
You were
just
a little
couldn't.
advanced, so you went
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. I would play like too much RPGs, like JRPGs, and they had too much text on it. So I was like, yeah, I know it all. Like I would like my brother would like be on PC and I would be like on PlayStation, and I was like, oh, what this means and what this means and what this means, and he would just translate for me while he was like doing computer stuff.
It's a
It
great
was
way
really
to
cool.
learn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I learned Japanese quite a bit by reading manga in Japanese. And I
Oh,
mean, my the manga was here and the dictionary was here, and I
yeah.
constantly just had to go like this. So it took a long time, but this is back in like early 2000s. I could, start to read Japanese that way and
That's
and
really
learn the
cool.
language. Yeah, so it's the same
Yeah,
thing. I think if you explore something that you love in a foreign
yeah,
language, you might just learn the foreign language.
yeah. And it's really weird because there's all the cultural things. So when you're learning like a language, you are also interaction with another culture. So you're like understanding like people like see life different on each culture, and they prospect the day different in their hour and their time and their activities. Sorry, and then you start like seeing that, and more time passes, you're like, sometimes you need to like give a break so you can go back to your culture also, because you start like living a life that is not necessarily your reality, but you're like computer and stuff. And it's really crazy because sometimes I'm like with my girlfriend and I'm like, man, I'm thinking of things on English. I'm sorry. I just need to stop a bit and like go back to like Portuguese and whatnot, you know, because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
working
no,
all the
I
time
relate
on
to
it.
that a lot. I
Yeah.
really relate to that. I have the
I'm
same
working
experience.
all the time on it. And sometimes you just like Portuguese stuff. And I'm like, oh, sorry. I'm like moved I'm moved on from like reality, you know. I'm just like I'm dislocated right now. Sorry.
I think in linguistics, there's a term called code switching. I think
Yeah.
it's a term in linguistics, and I think about that in terms of not just the codification of language, but also our brain operating in a different culture. People have different
Yeah.
expectations, the way that you interact, the way that you do mannerisms using your hands, or even
Mhm.
expression in your face. And then
Uh,
also your tone of voice. And like there's so many levels to it. And I think
yeah.
that I oftentimes think of that as code switching for me, whether it's the correct use of the term or not. I
Yeah.
don't know, but I really, yeah, I have a similar experience to what you're describing quite often.
Yeah. And it's really weird because it becomes your reality for a long time. But you need to like to. I think sometimes it's like characters. You need to like, oh, this is my character right now, so go with it and go back to the other character. And yeah, it's really you, but you are doing the whole process thing, switching, you know, trying to be on that terms.
Yeah,
But
and you do
but
feel like you're kind of two people because you're operating in these two
yeah, yeah,
realities, these two cultures,
yeah.
and two
And the things go
ways of
for
speaking.
Spanish for me. Like I know to type and write Spanish. I think Brazilian people have really easier time learning Spanish. It's really look alike. There's types of Spanish that's not really easy. Like I think it's Castellano. Like it's really complex the way it's made. But the most common linguistic of Spanish we had like from not college, early high school. We learn like Spanish first, then English usually.
Because it's so
So
close to Portuguese, right?
yeah, yeah.
Relatively.
I had like almost 7 years just with Spanish classes, 6 years on college. Sorry, high school and things before. And English, I had like just a tiny bit. It's not. I don't know now because education has changed a lot in Brazil over the years. The alternation of things, the way things are dealt have changed a lot since I finished the high school. So I don't know how it is now, and the
Oh, well.
words are always evolving. But at the time, I had way more Spanish than English. Like Spanish, way more. Like I would have friends that if we would play a game, or like I don't know, any game anywhere. I would use like Fable, for example, Fable 1, Fable 2. They would play in Spanish and not English because it was easier to understand Spanish than English at the time.
Uh, but there
For
was no
example,
Portuguese.
no,
I see.
now there is a lot more Portuguese. I think most games have Portuguese right now.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, or VAs, voice actors are really good. We have like some great voice actors, and it's really you can see like how voice acting on Brazil, especially, it's it grown a lot more than subtitles, for example. For a long period of time, people would prefer like hearing and seeing voice actors act than subtitles here for a long
Uh,
time. So you have like we have like or the guy who does Will Smith, for example, the voice of Will Smith, and it's always him on every movie from like late 2000s to 2010s. Like the voice actors here in Brazil are really a big diffused thing. Like anime conventions, we would meet like the voice actors of Goku and Vegeta, but they are like not original voice actors, the voice actors here from Brazil,
The
and they
Brazilian
got
ones, yeah.
yeah, and they got like really big fandom, and people really
Oh
like
wow.
him.
That
Yeah,
seems to be like happening in the US too, that voice actors who are doing the dubbing in English for an
yeah,
American audience, that they are becoming more, people are more in tune with the
uh-huh,
voice actors themselves and who's doing the voice acting, and
uh-huh,
become fans of certain voice actors, which is
yeah.
a, I think, I don't think that happened so much when I was a kid. I think it's pretty
Oh,
new, a more
really?
recent phenomenon. Yeah, and but I think it was always the case in Japan that voice actors got a lot of notoriety. So I don't know if
Yeah.
that's just a slow evolution of anime around the world,
Yeah.
or what. But that's interesting to hear that it's also occurring in Brazil.
Yeah, Brazil is a big, like a big anime country. It thinks we have even like the niche animes, like Evangelion. Evangelion is really big here in Brazil and
Oh
Japan,
wow,
and it's
yeah.
like it's really weird because anywhere in the world is like it's just an anime, but in Brazil, it's like Evangelion is like Senseiya here in Brazil is like it's just like Dragon Ball, Senseiya, uh, Evangelion at the time. It's really like the animes, like Naruto at the time. Also, right now it's not really like it's. I think it's more global based, like the famous animes. But at some times when like a certain anime would pass on national television, it culturally like with time our culture would have like a big impact, like the subgenre of anime and other things. Like it's really crazy because here in Cascavel we would have like conventions of anime, for example, done
Oh,
by like
even in
home,
the countryside.
yeah, done by homegrown people. Like it's like DUI, full DUI, and it would
Yeah.
become almost like we have even like, not right now because of pandemic, but like last year 2019 we still have like conventions here in Cascavel. We have like big game stores, big like anime stores just for like people who likes anime, and it's
Oh,
really
that's
like
awesome.
yeah, and it's on the countryside. It's not like we don't need to like go to the capital to get things like that. Like capital has a lot of more things than here, like a lot of more things. Like we like I think it's been 1.5 years here. We had a Burger King for the first time here in Cascavel. We had like McDonald's since early 19s to 2000, but we never had like other thing. And then come I don't know if Bob's are a thing outside here.
But I'm not sure.
I'm
It
not
seems
sure
like
because I
it
never
seems
heard.
like I know it, but I'm not sure I actually know
I
it.
never heard about outside, but we just like had a Burger King, and we have two now.
Oh
1.5
wow.
year we had the first one, and now we have a second one already in the city.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Like you are very, because of the time you were born and raised and went to school, like you're exposed to all of this global culture.
Yeah, but
And
I never like touched it or seen it, and because like especially wrestling, I see a lot of American ads, like in this, like how
oh,
the
the
ads.
advertisements.
Yeah, advertising, how it's conceived. And sometimes I'm watching with my girlfriend, and sometimes there is like picture in picture where like the wrestling is just a small frame and there's the big ad on screen, and we go like, oh man, we can just watch ads all the time because it's really interesting to see advertising on other countries and cultures
Yeah.
because it's so different. And also, since I went to like advertising school and that, I know that a lot of people from Brazil work on the other. It's like it's we have a lot of people going out of Brazil to do advertising on other countries.
Oh, I see.
Like one of the biggest gigs here in Brazil is like outside advertising. It's uh, it's really weird. I don't know why,
Like
but
working creatively for an
yeah,
agency.
creative. Yeah, Brazilians are really known for being like big, like design, advertising things, doing exporting, like publicity stuff.
Yeah.
Like
So what do you think of American advertisements?
It's really different. It's really different. I think that the thing that most calls like gives attention is how abundant things are. So if it has cheese, it needs to show a lot of cheese. Uh, like we don't have like Coca-Cola five. I don't know how do you call it because it's different the the system because we have like Coca-Cola of 2 liters. I don't know.
Right,
It's
right.
OZ, right? We
Yep.
don't have. We usually have like the maximum we will find in a market, like if not capital, but even in capital, we will find like 3 liters. I don't know how that's OZ. And now I heard like in the United States, you guys used to have like buy like 5 liters or 6 liters at like just one package, and it's 6 liters. And it's really weird because it's the double of 4 package. And I see that a lot of like we were talking like we have like just one small place to put all the things that we keep like one we don't have like a room just for the food. It should be like it's
Like you don't have a pantry or storage
yeah,
for
it's not really a
food, so
storage. Yeah, it's just how do I call it?
a closet
Um, yeah, just a
or
closet,
a pantry or a cabinet.
Yeah, cabinet, yeah, but not a room specifically. And I know a lot of families on the US have like a room just for it.
Yeah.
And and I
Yeah,
think it's because
we have so much space. I guess a lot of people say US is such a vast country that
yeah,
the houses are big and the yard is big and the property is
yeah,
big, and so
the yards. We on countryside we had a lot of big houses and big yards. You go to like the inside of to the bigger cities, it's like a lot less space. But even on bigger cities, there is a lot of space. And I think like we have a lot of potential space not yet with people living in it. Just like rural side, we have a lot of like subdeveloped places about it. But it became as a cultural thing of how storage works, how selling stuff works, and how like consuming works. I
yeah.
like for example, here are just more bars than like markets. For example, you find more like roadside bars
Like
than
for drinking
markets.
alcohol.
Yeah, drinking
Yeah.
alcohol. Like or ICU have like 80% of our Brazil's ICU it's occupied by people who have alcohol problems than like real
Oh wow.
accidents. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
I didn't know that alcoholism was I guess it's a problem in Brazil.
uh, people don't call it. That's the thing, though. People don't know, like don't. It's not really like sometimes it's not really black and white. It's like I think all other countries also don't call it like a drug. But
Right.
if you like do some like cultural studies about it, you realize that yeah, people go hard on it too much.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting too because in US many people drink, but there's some stigma attached to it, and there's I feel less stigma in like Europe. It's not to
Yeah,
say that people in the US don't drink, but there's a little bit more negativity associated with
yeah,
it. But I also think that there's probably more excessive
yeah.
consumption.
Yeah,
And
I heard
maybe I'm
like
making this up, I'm beating up my own culture, but it goes back to
yeah.
like the having way more cheese on our hamburgers in the commercial, and we tend to be, I would say, a little bit excessive, and maybe that goes for drinking as well. But
I,
it's
I,
interesting that you related the size of the houses and the way that you store food and things like that back to culture, because that's also like the way that we build our houses, the
yeah,
architecture, the way that we structure our cities, the way we do urban planning. Like at the end of the day, you don't think about it in these terms, but those are also very things that are very much culturally driven. And so that's why the landscape and architecture and the layout of cities is so different place to place, and why traveling is so fun and important for
Yeah,
perspective, because,
yeah,
you know, you're experiencing a new culture, not just by interacting with the people, but also the place that they built.
yeah. And you go out, you go off the monotone of your life, and you start like um, addressing things differently when you start looking at things different. And I think that's why so much people like to like learn new cultures and understand new cultures, and why it's also so important to us to discuss why it's like really cool to respect and interest about other cultures. Because I think I think people will have a live it like hundreds of years without knowing each other, but they can live anyway. So like we have like we have a saying like, if this guy is living, so he knows something. Like, you know,
Yeah.
he's dealing with his stuff. He's dealing with it, his present day, so he knows something, and you can learn something from it. Even if you don't agree with it, or even if you have like resentment about it, you can learn something with it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's a good point.
that's the thing about, I think, most cultures, because I think here in Brazil there's a lot of like racism and political stuff. Like there's really like a underculture, and like you can say like we don't have like the most perfect education about things. We
Mm.
are like educated about the world and how the world operates and how like the world is around us, but it is not really like how we treat and respect people are like properly addressed on many levels. And I
Mm.
realized that especially about working has like a disproportional level of how it was built and how it's seen, because we have really people, like we have people who lives here and like live and thrive with like the basic income. And the basic income here in Brazil, for like example, you can buy like I don't know, with half of it you can buy a TV, and like it's really expensive for you to waste half of the basic income on a TV, for example. People buy
Is
anyways,
basic,
and
when you say basic income, is that something that's
minimum
supported
wage, like,
a
yeah,
minimum wage? Okay.
minimum wage, yeah. So the minimum wage here is like you can buy much things. You can buy like small like cheaper products, and some things are like more organic based than other countries. You can see like the difference, how much like our organic products here are different, like inspiring from other countries. We have like big like stacks of things when you go on the market, just organic things, and let's produce. But still, like you cannot. We don't have like much power on consuming things. For example,
Mm.
you don't have like the acquisition power than other countries provide based on minimum wage and based on work relationships. We don't have like much of work relationships is involved here, especially because we
Meaning like the companies are less established, and so there's less employment opportunity with a bigger company.
not only opportunity, I would say, but like regulations. So people would work for like less, not less, like for worse jobs or worse conditional jobs, because it's like the norm and the rule. And like the last couple of years, it started changing and adapting and having more legislation about it. And people are like starting to prefer like jobs and stand for themselves and work about, because it's just kind of like I don't know how English you say it, but it's sub-developed country, because we started like uh, way before, way after other countries, and exploration, colonialism,
Right. So something
also,
like a developing country.
yeah, developing. I would say, yeah, it's developing the name. I think it's the term is. I think it's developing the term, and there's a lot of colonialism and stuff, and you can go on about it a lot. But you look like a country like Venezuela. It's not really. You can see how like Brazil has a few of those same problems. Not really like political stuff, but also how money is concentrated behind the hands of people.
Hmm. It's kind of like
And
a system, right? Because you're talking about regulation to
yeah,
protect workers and
yeah,
make sure that the wealth doesn't get concentrated
yeah,
one
yeah,
single
yeah, yeah,
place, and
yeah,
everybody has
yeah,
a kind of
and
opportunity in the end to
yeah,
participate in
yeah.
economy. And
Acquisitive power is really like dipping down from other countries. You can see it on comparisons, for example. But there is like better things. Like we have like how do you say, not hospitals, like healthcare. A
Mhm.
public healthcare is really functional. It's
Oh wow,
good. Yeah, we have like criticism
that's
about
better
it
than
because
us.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
beating us on that.
My father got COVID.
Oh no.
He went to ICU for like 15 days, and it was all covered by government. We didn't
Wow.
have to pay for anything. It was almost on a self-inducted coma,
Oh wow.
like forced-inducted coma. When
Yeah.
the treatment has like when he got it was October, November. The treatment was way ahead, so he did like the respiration method without coma because he's like a really big buff guy, and he like his whole system was like, oh yeah, let's do it, like
Let's fight it.
yeah, let's fight it.
But he
And
was on a respirator.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's called I don't remember the name, but it's like a known like it's not it's like a type of respirator, but it's not lucid coma. I don't remember the
I
name.
see. And now he's recovered now.
Yeah, he
Good.
got it.
Good.
He lost like 20 kilos.
Yeah.
I don't know how many pounds that is, but he
That's
lost like a lot
uh
of.
about, which way do I do it? It's 2.2, 1 kg is 2.2 pounds.
Oh,
So he lost 20 kg. That's like 50 pounds.
yeah,
Wow.
in 10
Um,
days, 15 days.
yeah.
By the way, he got out and it was all covered by our, we call it SUS. It was all covered by
Public
the
health care.
healthcare. Yeah,
Great.
public healthcare. And
It's
my
it's
mother got
interesting
his.
that you talked about just the systems and employment in Brazil, and you're the second illustrator from South America I've had on who is working internationally, getting gigs online and being able to not only get work through the internet and connecting with people in the US and Europe and South America and all across the world, really. But also by virtue of that, you're also spreading your art across the world,
Yeah,
which is, it's a really amazing phenomenon, financially, economically, but also artistically. I think that
yeah,
I came across you because I connected with Lanier, and I was really struck and really enjoy your art. So it's interesting to think that about that from the perspective of jobs and economy and
yeah.
things
I,
like
I, I
that.
mean, when I started working, I had the vision that I didn't really want to work for someone specifically by the time because I was having like difficulties on adapting on like higher ups. And when I got to college, I was like, I really want to do something that when I go to sleep, I know I'm waking up tomorrow happy about it. And it's gonna be tough because nobody on my family really like thought like that or like had like really wanted to do that. It's really more like a thing now. Like I come from a family of workers. Like my dad and my mother used to work for like a big telephony company and whatnot. But by the time they would never like just work for other people. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that by the time I grow up. And like the illustration thing came when I was 18 because my friend like was like, oh, I want to work illustration. I was like, what is that? Oh, I did that when I was a kid. I like to do that. Like people loved like a redrawing the anime style, but I never thought of that as work. And when Energies was around, like publicity, I was working for publicity stuff. I was like, I can do both things, and uh, I can train drawing by doing illustrations for advertising. And so
Oh.
that's where it
So it
started.
was just to get the chronology right. Were you doing the film editing first,
Yeah, and
and
yeah, and working with illustrations at the same time and
okay,
trying
at
to
the same
learn
time?
illustrations. Yeah, and then I just let go of the editing stuff. Like I learned how like editors work here, and I didn't really like it. I was like, oh, that's not really for
Was
me.
it not was it too, because I also do video editing quite a
Yeah,
bit, but I do video editing in my own style. I'm not formally
yeah,
trained, but I do put together some, like, not just basic stuff. I'm doing a little bit more
uh,
complex stuff. So I wonder, having said that, was film editing too restrictive for you because they were trying to make you work within some
it's
specific
because
system of editing and
uh,
organization?
it's because I like to do the most like not like here people are looking for people who do effects and more motion stuff, and I like it to do like the more like cutting stuff
Mm-hmm.
and like how editing like puzzles together and what comes next and what comes like right after it. And like for example, if you're gonna do a video music for a music, like how things like the music hits and the video also cuts, so the enjoyment of listening and seeing is the same, and it produces a different feeling if
Right.
things are timed together. So that was my thing. I just like it to do
So
that way.
like timing,
Yeah,
specifically
like
timing
more
of the
specific
cut.
timing.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
like that too.
and also the producing part, like what comes after, what comes here, what comes there, like more directing of it. And here, like working for it is really like, oh, I need a guy to do effects. I need a guy to cut the video and put it together. And at the time, like I didn't really have like the PC to do it also. So I was like, I'm not going to showing it home. I just like my PC can cut things well, and but I'm not really like doing effects and other stuff. And then I got to illustration, and illustration was like more. It has like the directing stuff on it also, because you can draw something and but just the things you want people to perceive first and last, even though it's like just one picture, one big picture of it. And I think one of the things that me and Linear like linked well together, because he like sent me the sketches of the comic, and I was like, oh, here's the sketch back, because he sent me like stick figures of the
Right.
sketches, and I
Yeah,
was
he
like,
mentioned this during
yeah,
our interview too.
and I sent him back, and he was like, oh, this is I think this is expresses better the way I want to express it. And then the things started to develop, because I was looking at the way he's like seeing the story of the comic, and I was
Right.
also suggesting things like, oh, what with like with the scene when the character is holding the cell phone, we only do the cell phone, and then we do the expression later. And
Right.
then we started connecting and discussing about how things will like puzzle together, because I think like he has the story, he has the aim to it, he has the thing to it, but I also had like the artistic stuff to express what he's feeling and trying to talk through it. So it's really my enjoyment to like translate things
Into
around
visual
into a
representation.
visual representation. So he, even though he had like the sketches divided, I was still like trying to suggest changes that I think would express better an emotion. Of course, I would say like, oh, I think this would be better, but you chose. If you want me to like do the same thing
Yeah,
you did,
yeah. No, that's a
no
perfect
problem.
collaboration, I think,
Yeah,
because you're communicating verbally, but also
yeah,
visually, like Linear presented his sketches. This is how I think it flows. And then
Yeah.
you read it and you gave your advice from a more visual,
Visual. Yeah.
you're the illustrator, you know how you're going to do the lines and how things will
Yeah.
fit in the panel, and then how that will affect the page. And that's really designing the panels on a page is a very
Yeah.
design oriented exercise.
Yeah.
So that's
And
awesome.
sometimes, like I started working with games now, and sometimes I'm doing assets for like a gaming game, and it's really cool right now because I have like a really cool partner about it also. And sometimes like he has an idea, and I'm like, what if we do things on this way? And sometimes like his idea will come across really well, and like sometimes my ideas will come across really well. But in the end, it's all like about expressing the art and making the enjoyment of the experience for everyone.
Right.
So sometimes when I'm drawing things, you can see like it has a lot of small details because I want people to like not the comic side because I don't want like also take attention from the story. But if you see like my pieces independently, it has a lot of details because I want people like to explore the picture and also have enjoyment
The ones on
about it.
Instagram.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like for example the ones on Instagram, I want people like to see the things and like just have enjoyment about it in some way. So sometimes I like, it's not really Easter eggs, but it's like some form of directing the whole experience of
Yeah. It's
the
a
piece.
curation is
Yeah, because
popular word for that sort of thing. But
yeah,
you're not just creating one image, but trying to put together a cohesive feeling and theme.
yeah,
And
yeah,
though I mean, every artist has their own style, but I think your style is very well defined.
it's
Um,
really strange because when people started talking to me that can see like if I send a picture and they say, oh, you did it, like I sent the game I was doing for people and I didn't mention at all it was my game, and people was like, this is yours because this looks like yours. And it's really funny because when you start like developing the things, you sometimes you look at one thing and you look at the other and go like, oh, this doesn't look like mine, and people like instantly recognize even though you don't think it looks like yours. And I go like,
really?
like I can't pretend to be another one, you know, and I can't pretend not to be my thing, you know, even though sometimes I try because I'm really like trying to develop new styles, but that's not things, you know, it's like
Hey,
that's not things.
we have a saying in English: if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
I think your
yeah,
style is wonderful, and I'm really kind of surprised to hear that sometimes you think you're drawing out of your style or that it
yeah.
doesn't seem like it's connected. But for me, your whole Instagram is like, wow, he has such a well concentrated, well defined style.
Oh, that's really cool. Like the whole idea when drawing is like to bring a bit of happiness to the picture. And even though it's not happiness, I'm trying to bring like uplifting experiences to it. And even though we are talking like a serious theme, it still like talks in a soft-spoken way, most of things. So like
Yeah.
the thing I'm trying always to like express is the way I would like to someone to talk to me, you know. Like I would like someone to talk to me in a soft spoken way and happy and enjoyment and have the energy. So I'm always like trying to project that on my art also. So
That's
like
awesome.
I think sometimes it comes well together because like I like to do like the big simple smiles and the big simple eyes also, and not try to complex the expression sometimes, just to give like the feel, and the rest of the image is like a really complex mass of mesh and things, etc. But the expression is always like the point of I try to keep it simple because I want people to look at it and be like, yeah, this this makes me happy. This makes my day happy. And
Well,
one
that's how I feel when I look at your images. And yeah, I mean, I think the end of my conversation with Lanier, I was asking him about you and the illustrator, and how he found you, and also like just how I was struck. And at that point, I had only seen, I think, the cover of Penny Peculiar, and but I could tell that it was a very distinct style. And for listeners, at that time, I described it as it reminded me of the art for Scott Pilgrim, but
Yeah,
also a
it
little bit
was.
of like One Piece. And then also you have a lot of not distortion, but kind of what's the word? I wrote it down here. Grain, some grain and fragments and specks that add a little, just enough texture to your
Yeah.
images.
Uh,
And it's like it looks like it's imperfect because it's a speck, but at the same
uh,
time, it's part of a pattern. Um, and you don't only do that within the coloring and the fill of a body, but even in the line work, you insert texture and pattern in the line work. So there might be a line that is a line, and then a part of it is dotted, and then it's a line, and a little bit of it is
uh,
dotted. Or you might have a line and there's two bumps in the line, and then you draw a line and there's another two
yeah.
bumps in the line. So yeah, I was like, I'm really curious to ask you about all of those very specific questions that and specific
Uh,
parts of your style that I just described. How did you develop these things? Because it's very consistent across all of
uh,
your work, this unique approach.
I think I got the philosophy of drawing that form. It's everything. So everything needs a form. Everything needs to revoke a form, and there is ways of evoking a form without telling them, like without really doing the things. So in my mind, I was like trying, oh, I can cut lines and leave it, and even perform lines and use colors as ways to like make the whole thing whole. And I think a lot of it, like I said, comes from Scott Pilgrim, like his Brian O'Malley stuff he does. He as day passes, I'm starting to like more of my imperfect forms, because sometimes I'm really focused on this is a circle, okay, but this doesn't look like a circle, but it still evokes the feeling of a circle, and it has like the circle thing on it, but it's not really a circle. I'm starting like to like even more, and you can see like how I just posted like a fan art of Chopper of an own piece. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just asked my girlfriend, well, I'm gonna do a fan art, because I'm always doing like a fan art, own thing, fan art, because it helps like to tackle people around the world, and
Mm-hmm.
like it makes people identify and look for the artist. And I think it's really important to do fan art, because you're like redrawing great guys and great designs from guys, and also adding your spice. So when you're doing your thing, the spice comes together, you know. You're doing the recipe and adding everything up, and so when you do
And
your
you're
own
calling
recipe,
that fun art?
it's not
Fan
really.
art, fan art.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fan
got it,
art.
got it.
Yeah, fan art. We call it, at the time I was growing up, they would call it too much fan art, and it was a thing on the internet. It was just like a crazy on the internet. So it was like Devon
Yeah,
art.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
just like here in Brazil was, I think the community on Devon art was really big also, and we call it like I call it fan art, but really in the end I'm already drawing all those designs and I'm adding my own spin to it. So it's not really
It's
like
like
it's
a
not really a fan art in the end, because I'm not like completely redrawing or doing stuff with it. It has like a spin on it.
right,
Uh,
yeah.
and it has a proper like the purpose is to people who like link with that design and see and know, because most of them are really know,
Yeah,
look at it and go
it's
like,
a perfect way to for people to know what you're drawing and then see how your style, how
it's
what you're
different.
drawing is
Yeah,
projected through your style. So it
yeah,
really, I love, like I just saw today, I went through your Instagram again and I saw the Cowboy Bebop one is obviously
yeah.
fantastic,
So
but also Mega Man was really cool too.
oh,
And
from the bat, like it's a from a few years ago,
yeah,
right?
I went back quite a bit, but
Yeah,
Mega Man was really cool too, and it's perfect that it is a recognizable character,
yeah.
but just as recognizable as the character is your style. if that makes
So
sense.
it's really funny because my style was just started coming together because of spins from other artists around the world. So you're gonna have like Gaston Pacheco, you're gonna have like Kai Fel and other artists because I'm telling you, but you must like not know some of them, and they are not like really big guys. But you can have like guys who did like Dexter and Samurai Jack, which is his name. I must be. I don't want to confuse names, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
say.
Which series
Actually,
or
Dexter, Laboratory of Dexter, and Samurai Jack. They were
oh
really
yeah.
big cartoons like Powerpuff Girls. I don't remember the author. They are different authors, of course. Like Dexter is one, Powerpuff Girls is another, I think. Am I mistaken? But I grew up watching those cartoons, and I go back, I see forms, and I see how development of things like were like square based, but also round based, and how they gel together. And they are not really like the type of wave thing that was going on when I was like anime sometimes because anime has it, but it's not really like the we would like we have like the stigmatism of saying like oh this is cartoon, this is anime by some
Mm.
time like those are different things, and I was like no. I like the both things. The both things can be together and can reproduce well. And then Scott Pilgrim came along, and he had like this big glowing eyes and big forms, and it was still
Which one
like
is that?
Scott Pilgrim.
I see. Yeah,
When
yeah, yeah.
it came around and it has like the forms, and I started like I really like it. I really love it. And another artist that I think we call it anthropophagia, which is I don't know if it has like English name, but it's like the way of eating people. And eating people is like consuming culture and consuming ways people do things. So I would look like Paper Speak Scissors, for example. It's a guy who does designs for Yeti. He also does the site for Yeti, and he does the designs. And if you
For
look at
Yeti,
Yeti, it's a
the
site of
container.
no, it's a site of t-shirts. The name is Yeti with only E's. I
Oh,
really did
not
a few
familiar.
designs for them. Like you can like, oh, I have this design. Do you guys want to sell it for one day? And they approve or reprove, and they
Oh,
sell it
okay.
for one whole day. I think Tea Turtle has something like that, and there's Spring Tea also have things like that.
Right.
Threadless, and like Papers with Scissors has like a really cool art style where he uses forms as lines, but they are not really lines. They're just the form, and the lines are inside the form. So you like the paper, like the white of paper, it's a contrast to the way he's dealing with it, and you can see a lot of inspiration from it. You can see a lot of inspiration, like I said, Kyle File, Sam Bosma also is a guy who now it's working with Disney. But at the time, I made a question for him, and he replied to me. It was like 2006, 2015. He did a video for a band called Suicide Manifesto, which is a ska band from the US. And I think it's one of the biggest ska bands that came after 90s and 2000s. He and I was really into punk also at the time, punk, ska punk. Against Me, Suicide Manifesto, Rancid.
I was just
Uh,
listening to Rancid for the first time in like 5 years or 10 years 2 days
yeah,
ago. I just put
yeah.
them on and I was really happy I did.
It's really great. I really like Teen Time Bomb. I think Teen Time Bomb is like the like really cool artist because he's just doing his thing and he's not really like the imperfection on his way of doing things is his style. It's not really the like people would joke around about Tin Tan Bomb playing like the guitar was unplugged when he was playing live because he was just spinning around and just like it's just not playing at all and the band is doing the whole thing. And it's really cool because I think Tin Tan Bomb was one of the guys that made me less anxious about my art through the days. Like just
Oh,
do art.
how so?
Yeah. And Green Day also with the
How did
whole
he have that effect on you to make you less anxious about putting your art out there?
I think I was seeing him just do himself and do all his stuff, and he just have a lot of bands and a lot of projects that he can express himself. So he was never really labeled to only one style, but a lot of things happening outside Rancid and other styles. And I was really like, yeah, that's really how I want to perceive my art. Also, like that's why I say like if you get my Cowboy Bebop fan art and you get my other arts, they are different things happening there. But you can see still the artist like trapped inside his own cocoon there and doing his thing, but they are different. And like if you really want to be into specifics, they're different. But
Right.
they have the same qualities as one another. So when I was seeing like Tin Time Bomber friends and other things from Tin Time Bomber, I was like, oh yeah, that's really cool stuff about. I
You
never
see some of
learned.
the individual
Yeah,
theme in his work.
yeah, and then there's also the thing that I'm really bad at drawing genders. If you look at the specific type of characters I do, they are really like most of them, even though feminine, have masculine identities a little bit, and they're not really curved. And I was since first start, I was really like not wanting to do characters who have like really specific genders. I was just doing it, and like I don't care like about the whole stuff, or a feminine character needs to have this curves and these eyes and this thing, and a main character needs like a male character needs to like look like squared and whatnot, and both and stuff. And recently, I just started trying to do more like attention to cultural stuff. So last couple of months, I've been like educating myself to like if I want to do an Asian character, I need to like explore more of the features and not do so much whitewashing with it. Because I think my whole life I just like draw without worrying much about culture things. So recently, I'm starting like educating myself. My girlfriend also was talking to me like, oh, I think one of the things on your drawings that can improve is like trying to represent more cultures and more from this culture in these. Yeah, perhaps you learn to draw like without thinking about it, but it would be cool if you thought about it. And right now, like it's one of the things I've been like secretly trying to puzzle together, because I think nobody like specifically gonna get to me and say, oh, you need to draw things like that way. But I think as a human being, it would be cool to express things like represent more cultural things and have more things developed. And it's the same way why I find really hard to do like gender specific things. So I draw my girlfriend, and she was like, I look like a boy. I love it. Like I was like, oh, thank you, thank you. And she was like, no, this is not a critique. Like I think it's really cool that you don't, uh, you like your brain is hardwired to not like put the gender stuff first.
Interesting. Yeah. So maybe that's why, or one way that people can relate to your artwork, because it's to some degree neutral and the
It's
characters
way more
are
neutral. Yeah,
unique in their culture,
yeah,
but yeah.
it's way more neutral. Like right now, I'm trying to make it more cultural and less like whitish, because it has like a lot of cultural whiteness to it. Like I can see why, and I can see how it developed, and I'm trying to like.
Is where you are in Brazil at all diverse in the population? I know Brazil is a very diverse country,
no.
but
Yeah,
the countryside,
no.
not so much.
Yeah, not so much. It's really mostly white people here. So it's like it's Paraná especially. It's not. It's really like less more of south. It's really like the. It's just like United States. You know how it goes. It's like Texas and Rio Grande do Sul. Like we have our comparisons about it. Like Rio Grande do Sul is the last state, so it's like
interesting.
yeah, we have like really big comparisons about it. And
There's
really
a lot
like
of similarities then.
yeah, even border stuff you can like yeah, there was like a like technically like you're going I don't know if you're going to Sul other places weren't part of Brazil for some time. And
Oh,
then,
like,
like,
yeah, Texas was part of Mexico.
yeah, yeah, and then wars came and colonization came and everything else. You have a lot of similarities with like urban do in Texas. That's really funny. And even today, like I know that what's the capital of Texas? Houston? Not the
Yeah,
Houston.
maybe Dallas, Houston, or maybe Houston.
And I know it's pretty diverse on capital, and it's
Right.
really open-ended conversation on the capital of Texas and Rio Grande do Sul also. The Porto Alegre is really open-ended about conversations and it's really forward stuff and culture stuff. But the countryside is like, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing, and it has a comparison pretty similar, especially the last couple of political years here in Brazil and the United States and whatnot. Like it's really weird because Brazil in the last years have not had like the Brazil way of doing things. It's more like, oh, they do outside, so we're going to do it here inside. And right now, there's a lot of places going back and forth. Like we need to do more of our way, not their way. And people like, oh, we need to do their way because it works and our way doesn't work. And there's a lot of,
Yeah.
yeah, like we look to other countries to do our stuff because we are like people, some people feel like we're lesser than other countries, and there are people like, no, we're not lesser, and we're not supposed to look
Just,
around to do,
yeah,
yeah,
do
just do
your
our
own
thing.
way.
Yeah, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of that fight going around.
Interesting.
Yeah, so like from like your countries, our country, there's a whole other idea of how things are perceived, and we are like technically looking down the ladder, so upwards about it. And there's also that fight, like don't look upwards. Like we're not supposed to look upwards. Like we're not supposed to apologize for something we did wrong, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
there's a lot of that thing going around. So it's really funny because there's a lot of comparisons, and only seeing cultural stuff, like looking around, you can see like, oh yeah, some things that really look alike, like especially in the US.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So when
So
you, yeah, go ahead.
hello, I was gonna ask you if you want to know anything more about my art, or
Yeah, I was wondering if you were drawing in this kind of form and style, even when you were a kid. Like you said that you mentioned that you were drawing kind of anime style and
yeah, I
people
was
enjoyed
trying.
it. And
I was
did it look similar to what you're drawing now? I'm really curious to
no.
explore more how your form
I used to
developed into what it
do.
is now.
I used to think like anime and more human figures would be better drawings. Like the more it looks like reality or more like looks like anime would be better drawings. So we'll draw like more body big buff stuff or like uh, more anime like lookalikes, like have Dragon Ball and other
Like
things.
Dragon Ball muscle guys.
Yeah, yeah. Not only I never liked the muscles. I will do like the eyes and the chin and the whole stuff. Um, but I would do like I would perceive that way more human like would be the way to go because it's like the right way to draw.
Hmm.
And used to watch cartoons at the same time and now not think about it like that this is the option. And only when I was getting older, I was like, no, I think if I draw simpler things, I can express my things better, my expressions better. I think I'm trying to do a way complex style that not only I can perceive, but I don't want to do in the end of the day, if that makes sense. I'm just doing because I think it's the right way to do, but I'm not really enjoying it. And even
Uh,
today, I have like a few drawings that I don't didn't just do the reference that way more like undertone, the way bodies are structured, and I'm still undertoning them and perfecting. And so you can have examples of things that I'm still trying to like decomplex the whole thing and decompress and make it
Mm.
more simpler because I feel I can express feelings better with simple things. So even today, it's a whole work. Like I learned to draw one way, and when I realized that I was like pretending it was the right way, there's no right way. You know, I feel people feel better about trying complex stuff. I know there's people that feel better about trying simpler stuff, and I think both ways are right, and both ways are perceived, and there is like space and market for all of it.
Mm.
That's all of it. If you want to like sell flowers, there's a market for selling flowers. There's a way of selling flowers. If you want to sell like other plants, there is a way of selling other plants. You can like make a living of all those things. You just need to find your own way and one perspective and how much you feel comfortable doing it.
Mm.
So when I learned drawing, I was learning in a way that was perceived right, but it's not really the right. There's no right way.
How were you learning? Was that just by
Uh, the
copying
same, yeah,
and
the same way I learned like today. There is a lot of books. There is a lot of um, ways, and there's a lot of like things to absorb and tone down. But in the end, I learned more watching art and deconstructing on my mind, like eating it.
so
So I
looking at
try
an image and then
and try to reimagine how it was done
mm,
before, like going back in time, for example. So he started like this. I feel like this needs to go here and here and here and here. So sometimes I'm doing a piece and I have a reference piece that is from other artists, and like it's a dragon and I'm drawing a person, but I'm still using the dragon to draw my person because I want to like deconstruct on my mind how the dragon was made because I want that style or something that calls me to be on my piece. So I learned a lot doing that. Nowadays I don't do that too much. I'm just opening my thing and go around the. I use my own art sometimes nowadays. I use more my art
as
than
kind of
other
a
people art.
referential guide for
Yeah, because I see like people like this, and I sometimes I'm like I'm trying to recapture something I did and work it
interesting.
well. So I
You're
use my art because I use it to use other people's art as example. Not one artist, but like sometimes five artists. I would open like the Instagram of the artist and
right.
just use as references. And sometimes I would look at it and I would have like more than five different artists and I'm using for one art. And nowadays I just go back on my things and I try to reuse my things and like add a spin to it. Sometimes I use other artists. Sometimes I see art from another artist and I go like, I want to do something like this. I want to. I think that's the whole thing about music. Also, that's how music evolved through the years. I think people would look to other artists from
Like
uh,
everything's referential. Everything's
yeah,
referencing
from rock
something.
to rap to any genre, and they would go like, I want to do this, but I want to do this my way. You know, like if you look at like I don't know early famous bands like Queen wanted to do ballet, but as the way they envision it for everyone. And
Yeah.
people would and there was also people who were not wrong by criticizing and saying this is not ballet. Like they were just like being mean guys. I don't agree. Like the whole cry, but they aren't wrong. At the end of the day, just things sometimes they don't need to say. Like I think Rotten was like a big anti-Freddie Mercury guy at the time, and he like would fight with Freddie. But Freddie was right at the end of the day. Freddie was doing his thing, you know. It's just
He was yeah. It
if people are
reminds
being
me of
annoyed,
it reminds me of a famous Bruce Lee quote. Part of that quote is about expressing oneself honestly.
yeah,
And that's how you have the most power, essentially.
yeah,
And it seems like for you, as you simplify your art and you're getting closer to your true expression.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
the most idea because the worst thing, like I had many jobs around advertising and other things, and I would never stop at like more than 6 months at a job because I would feel like I was not complete doing it. Nowadays, I feel way more complete and more mature about it. But at the time, I would realize like if this bothers me and I'm not being honest to myself, I'm not really there. So I'm gonna search for another thing while I'm doing it,
Right.
if that makes sense. So I'm gonna pile up and pile
Yeah.
up and pile up and pile up. It doesn't matter like if it's a good opportunity or this is an influential type of thing, or it's more of like I don't know, money type of thing.
Right.
If it doesn't feels right at the end of the day, if it doesn't gels well, you're not doing it, like you're not happy about it. It doesn't matter how much you made, how much you're gonna in the end of the day, because like even when you're going to like really low money status, you learn to live and you learn to perceive and adapt to things. It's not really like a proud thing to do because like society has evolved to this, but you try to
You can
perceive it.
survive. Yeah.
Yeah, you try to survive as long as you can produce the thing you're happy to produce. And there's
So
a
have you found that satisfaction now that you're your own
I'm
artist and
more
you're doing independent work?
I think yes. I'm like 80% more satisfied with my thing nowadays than 10 years ago. Like I'm 25, so I was 15 starting. I'm way more satisfied. Like 8 years ago, way, way, way more. But I think there's uh, a whole new ocean that opens up when you are starting to satisfy yourself because you start developing more needs and developing like different type of needs.
Hmm.
So now I'm not only looking like it's not the same type of way of satisfaction because I have established and I have like jumped off the ladder a little bit of where I want it to be. But now I look up and I see different stages where it's not really like um, money stuff or like being known, but doing work. So now I want to do like I was wanted, but now it's like more of a certain thing, like my own comic stuff. A few future, I don't know when, and I want to do my own game stuff. Like I
Oh
really want
wow.
to like to own assets stuff and gaming, and really like and make things that I've always had on my mind, but like I'm always most of the time in the last years I was like it's not time yet because if I do it now it will be like a style that I'm not really good at and I don't
Mm.
want to like blow the first time I do it. And nowadays I'm like oh, there is no such thing as that, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I think because you've dedicated yourself for so much time and like you said, you're still distilling and still
Yeah,
perfecting your style and slowly perfect. Maybe I think when you're a perfectionist, you're never going to be satisfied. So that
no,
continues to drive you forward and
yeah,
you continue to pursue your the perfection of your own style in your
yeah,
own mind. And
yeah,
and your style will probably continue to evolve as you get older and have new inspirations and stuff. And I think that's really fascinating. So do you have stories that you already have an idea for or have written
yeah.
that you want to draw or put into games?
I never like really wrote anything. I just have like key points that I put on annotations and stuff. I don't have anything like I stopped it like to do the full work on from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. But I have like when I was really young, I would have like so many stories and so many things. Like I would puzzle together. Like my fun time when I was not playing video games was to like puzzle stories together, like my own stories, and put them like in black line of events and how they happen. And nowadays, like when I go back, I see that there's a lot of inflation things about it and the way it's perceived. So right now, uh, I wanna like first off, I'm just trying to like um, both things at the same time. Is like have like money assurance and also project assurance. So both things together, never one thing or two things together. And while doing that, establish those personal things and work on them at the same time. Like the whole pandemic stuff mixed up things a little bit and changed like plans and other stuff. But right now is like more we're like on the planning stage of things, and it's like both things are kind of secure most monthly, but we go like, oh yeah, let's wait a little bit just to be
Yeah. So
sure.
you want to have kind of a strong foundation for
Yeah,
yourself as an artist and a creator.
yeah. So I can like reserve more time to my things and other things. Like now, I'm doing like I'm 25, and it took me a couple of years to start like going forward with psychological treatment and other things. So I'm starting like um, I think until 23, yeah, 23, 20 and a half, I was like, I'm on anxious. I'm not like an anxious type of people. Anxious? Yeah, anxious.
I- uh,
Yeah. And I was like 13 and a half, and I was like, fuck, I am. And then I started treating it and going to therapy, and it started to like to develop better things, and you start to develop better strategies to allocate stuff and work on stuff so you don't just pile up too much stuff. So now I have like my days only to work on myself, like only to drawings for myself and my stuff. And there's days for working on side projects, and there's days to working on other things. And I would mix all the things at the start, and now I get like a clearer vision about it because it makes me more uh, I kind of confident about everything and how things are
yeah, yeah.
developed and whatnot. And nowadays, I feel like way more confident than when I'm searching for new jobs or new freelance gigs. I will find it, or I will make a way of finding it nowadays. And less like years, I was like really anxious about it, like, oh, I'm never gonna find something, or anyone will never perceive my art. And like this interview is like a really big bucket list. Like, oh, some guy will find me and he will like, oh, let's do an interview. I like you. Like, I like your style. Let's see how it works. And it was really like a big bucket list because you go like watching and seeing people and being like, oh, one day I want to be perceived in this way. You know, I don't want to like change my way of doing things and like just fit the mold. But someday maybe why not? You know,
Yeah. Well,
like
I think if you express yourself honestly,
yeah,
we keep coming
that's the
back to the Bruce Lee quote, but if you express yourself
yeah,
honestly, then that will really resonate with people. And it
yeah.
resonated with me. And I'm really happy that you joined me. And I'm happy that you shared about your anxiety, because as a creator, I have that too. And I
Yeah.
am also trying to work out how to manage myself better.
Hmm.
And I think you've made a good point about organizing yourself and your days. So,
Hmm.
to be a little bit more specific, are you trying to organize your week ahead of time? Like on
Yeah.
Sunday night, you plan 1 week, or is it more the night before you say, hey, to Tuesday night, I'm feeling a little tired. I think I need some time for myself. So Wednesday, I'm going to spend for myself.
I try to do the weekly thing, but sometimes I give it space for the day, if that makes sense. If like I
Yeah.
feel like I plan it the whole week, and sometimes I play 2, 3 weeks ahead. And but if I wake up on Wednesday like feeling down or anything and it's not producing well, I pile up things to another day. So weekends now are like secret for me. I don't do anything mostly on weekends. I like let a roll the free time. I learned that it's really good for me. I come back Sunday nights and start to like mold things and prepare things. But like I know that like tomorrow is Friday, and I learned for myself that I hate working on Fridays. Like it's not like I hate working on Fridays. I'm better at like organizing stuff on Fridays and less
Mm,
producing stuff on Fridays. So when it comes to Fridays, I want to work. I want to do things, but I'm gonna work on responding emails, or I'm gonna work on like managing my next week. And when Sunday comes, I just like revise it,
revise.
see
Yeah.
if yeah, everything is okay. But on Fridays is usually the day I do stuff for myself. So I like, I don't know. all my uh, jobs are done, all my like tasks I need to do are done. Like the freelance things are now a long time. So Friday is usually the time I'm gonna focus on myself. What I want to draw today. Because sometimes you are on a project that you like drawing. Let's be like a penny computer, for example. You're drawing just penny, the characters, and you just sometimes you just don't want to do that
Mm,
specifically because you're a creator and you cannot brute force things sometimes. You
right.
can you can like spend hours trying to get in the mood and trying to produce stuff when you cannot brute force it. You cannot. Because
Right.
if you brute force it, you're gonna go back some days after and you're gonna look like I need to redo it, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I just sometimes you cannot brute force it. So I try to separate those days. And for example, if I'm feeling really down or have like emergencies on one day, I'm really planning ahead. So I have the whole time thing built up. And it's really better this way, I feel
Yeah. Yeah.
nowadays. Because usually I didn't have like that and uh, I would let like my job dictate my personal life, if that makes sense.
Mm,
And I think like dividing both things are better, even though they're on the same parallel. But your personal thing is one thing, your work life is one thing, and those things like both roll together, but you need to like time for one, time for another. Even though like you sometimes you're operating both stuffs, doing magic with both hands at the same time, but it's different things. And you need to like give it like time and attention to those different things. And it's really important because I think every human needs to like focus on the personal life and the work. And it makes wonders for the work and makes wonders for the personal life. I feel there is people, and I spent times of my years not like giving attention to both things. That makes
mm,
sense, like giving like the right time and right thing to both things.
yeah.
You need
Yeah.
time to turn off, you need time to turn on, you need time to go ahead, and you have to go back. And it makes easier, especially because you start knowing yourself. Things know what works better for me. Does working on weekends work better for me, and what I want to accomplish in my life, family stuff, relationship stuff, and so
Yeah.
like yeah,
It's hard to find that balance, and that balance is different for each individual.
yeah,
And if you don't feel like you're in the mood to draw a beautiful picture one day, it's hard to force it. And it
yeah,
goes back to being honest with yourself. Like,
yeah.
you have to recognize that that's not the day that you're going to do your best
Yeah,
work, and step away from the tablet or paper.
yeah, and it's usually Fridays. Like it's, because I used to work on any like publicity stuff, so you start like making creative on Monday, and then on Friday you like we spent. You don't have anything to do. Like
Yeah.
Friday is the day.
I think we broke up a little bit. One
Mostly
second. Let's see if we.
zeroed because you to do right now.
One second. All right.
Hello, yeah,
Hey, Alk, can you hear me now?
yeah. I
Okay.
can. I don't know how
Yeah, I
much
think it took a
delay.
while to catch up.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how much delay there was, but it
I
happens
think
a lot. The
just,
internet here in Brazil is not the ideal type of internet. It's
oh,
actually
it's not too
uh,
bad though. That was the only
yeah.
time we had a hiccup this whole
Uh,
conversation.
we have like the contractual stuff. They deliver very slow. They are not like forced to deliver the whole package stuff because of how wires are working and stuff. And
Oh,
it's really sometimes it's really bad. Like wind blows and my internet falls. Sometimes it's the greatest internet in the world. But mostly on Brazil, there isn't really like a good internet plan on
mm,
most countries. It's not like
yeah.
the ideal type of thing. Even though we have like really we we had the expansion in the 90s of wired things and telephone things. Nowadays, it's really like more of a, it's not there. Yes, it's not really
Yeah,
complete.
even
Yeah.
here I'm in North Carolina, sometimes the wind blows and the internet goes out for a
Yeah.
while, or I'll even get what we call a brownout, which means the electricity, it doesn't go up into a blackout. It's not totally off, but
Uh-huh.
it just dips down a little bit. So
Oh
some of
yeah.
my clocks will go off and the light will like flicker.
Dips, yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty common here too to have
Yeah.
some hiccups
Oh,
here and there.
internet here are a thing of beauty sometimes. It's really a mess. Yeah. Especially on countryside. Like capitals are more stable and more like varied stuff, but the countryside here, like internet is like um it's getting there. They have improved a lot over the years, and like I
Yeah.
don't have anything like
And if
to
we didn't have
say.
internet, not only would we not be communicating, but like the way that
Yeah,
you grew up experiencing some anime and games and
yeah,
going on to message boards and stuff like that,
uh,
like wouldn't have happened, and you wouldn't be sharing your art globally right now. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm glad the internet works as good as it is, even though it's
It's good.
not
Yeah, yeah. I don't
ideal.
like. I can like go further about it, but just say like, oh, internet on Brazil. It's been discussed the whole thing. It advanced over the years, but we have like a few problems with a lot of providers. I don't know how much people. I think it's provider the name
Yeah, yeah.
gives. I don't know how many providers are in the US.
It depends on where you are geographically. Usually you
Mm-hmm.
have two or three options, and sometimes it's a difference
Oh,
between cable and fiber optics. And there's
yeah,
a couple of different distribution networks too.
yeah. We had like here 8. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
like for countryside. So on the capital, we probably had like 10 to 15 options. And we have like a program from the government to fiber optics from the own government, but it's not
Right.
really here yet on the countryside.
Yeah, it takes
Um,
time for it to.
yeah, it's paid separately, but you can like have the internet from government, and by reviewing it, it works really well. It's one of the better internets on the whole thing. My friend who works for the government on the side of energy things says that mostly the reason why internet on Brazil it's not ideal is because we have like older equipments that never been renewed from the 90s, so
Oh,
they
so
are
they
like
continue to use and support the old technology.
yeah, yeah, with the new
Just
yeah,
because it's too inconvenient to switch
yeah,
somehow.
they just patch it up if that makes sense, because
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the we have like a stronger competition, like we have too many um, like providers. So all the
Mm.
providers are like kind of the same. They don't need to like provide anything better than
Oh,
they are providing right now, because their competition is not really like if
they're
someone
not
like
they're actually not competing. They're
yeah, yeah,
holding back.
yeah, they're holding back, yeah, because if someone like goes too much ahead, it's like too pricey, and they would not compensate
uh,
for the number of people they would captivate, because people like doesn't really like
that's interesting.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
There's
like
Brazil for
counterintuitive capitalism.
yeah, sometimes there is that on Brazil, and sometimes there is the both extremes. Like
Yeah.
it's really funny because like we have like the discussion about like Amazon, how Amazon works on the United States, and here we have like the post mail stuff, and um, our our government stuff about post mail is really different from your post stuff, but you guys
Mm.
have like Amazon and other things that deliver in a different complete way, but also the work ethics are really different. And then you're gonna have like a really discussion about like how that affects on site production, on Brazil production, government production versus the things. So internet is the same thing. Like
Yeah, yeah. So it's always a negotiation between
The big
like if
companies
we want to
and
do something a
yeah,
way similar to the way it's being done overseas, or if we need to put
yeah,
our own
again,
spin on it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, again, yeah.
that's really
It's most,
interesting.
yeah. Like we have a discussion right now that's been the last couple, 3 or 4 years to stop medical care.
Oh wow.
Like, yeah, why
For
some
the
of
for the
you
universal
guys, yeah,
healthcare in Brazil.
so some of you guys are like fighting for years about it. Like some people we were like, no, we don't want it anymore. It's really crazy when you think about it and how people are like easily persuaded to say no to that. And even people I know that went to things like uh, use it are even like backtracking and saying like, no, I don't want it, even though they use every day and they don't know like how it would affect them directly.
So do you think they're just being misinformed,
Yeah, yeah.
somehow
We have a lot
misled?
of yeah, we have a lot of that. Like, there's really a lot of misinformation, especially with internet and access to internet and Facebook and WhatsApp. There's a lot of misleading information. There is misleading information on misleading information. It's like
Right.
how do you
Yeah. I
say?
mean, it's the same in the US.
It's a
Is there some way that the government or like I guess what is the reaction from the government and people on how to overcome this problem?
um, there isn't much like uh, government side is really funny you ask because we have I don't know if you know about the government of Brazil the last couple of years.
No, not very much.
We have like right now far right government,
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
but we have it's not really far right on some questions. We have like a more middle type of thing on most questions, like it always have been. But morality wise, we have like a way more far right ideal. We had like a far left before. So you can guess how much crazy that is from going from a far left kind of government that would like have really strong connections with Cuba and going to a country that on the last like I don't remember the name, but there was like a type of vote stuff to see who would trade with Cuba, and there was only 2 countries who voted against, and it was the U.S. at the time and Brazil. The whole world was like, no, no, no
And so
problem.
that's the new conservative government in Brazil that voted that
Yeah,
way with the US?
yeah. It's the conservative type of government, but it's really weird because the government, like the action of the government about fake news is like, don't, it's fake news. But we are the ones who are being investigated of fake news. At the same time, we're developing the fake news and saying for you to
And
not to believe.
benefiting from
Yeah, and like it's been like that before with the far left kind of government, but it's not been like um, aggressive and like conservative way of thinking about things. Like we had those problems before, like there's nothing new, but it is not
right.
being like I think you experienced the same thing with the last government you guys had
Yeah,
last four
yeah.
years. Like it's not like we never seen this, but we never seen so much of this so apparent and so like there. If
Yeah,
that
no,
makes sense.
it was totally different. And I think it was my opinion is that it was also just the timing.
Yeah,
Like
it's the same thing.
it's like
I
chicken
feel it's
or
the
the
same thing.
egg, which came first.
Yeah,
I don't know if the conservative government came first and then promoted more of the crazy
yeah,
misinformation, but I think it was rather that they kind of occurred simultaneously and
yeah.
one benefited the other and they kept bouncing back and forth in this
yeah.
kind of
But
escalation that
but
both got so
here,
crazy.
like we have uh, like the president specifically has some really crazy like saying about things. I think just like your ex-president was, and now we have like a more conscious type of president about what he says and what he like provoking on people is really different. Like here is the same thing. We had like a president who would provoke reactions of people, but he was really popular and people would be really happy about it. He got caught in a scandal about things where it's not really there that he did all the things, but people would like believe and the opposition would like uprise about it. And now we have like a president that has a lot of controversial things to say, at least. Not trying to swerve or anything, but like really, like there was at the start of pandemic when things were starting, he would ask for people, "What do you want me to do?" And I'm Jesus. Uh, yeah, it was like a
Unbelievable.
real quote that he did about like when deaths were starting. And
Right.
here we
Yeah.
have like, if you go like here, there is like government like induce it, like not really government because like just the US, like not the whole government agrees with itself on the whole country. So it's not really a government, but I would say presidential approve it type of manifestations or like protests that are done around hospitals that are attending people sick, and it's really like sad and like
Because they don't believe that the people are sick with COVID.
not
They're
only that, but they don't believe that people are dying from it. People are dying, and they are putting on the obituaries that was COVID. It was not really COVID in the end, but people were like inflating the numbers by putting on obituaries. And there is something the own government, like the own presidential part of the government, has stated that there is not really that many deaths like involving COVID. It's really like like a perpetuation of the own anti-government doing things against the government, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. Yes, no, so there's kind of
There's
people don't
conspiracy
know
theories
people
being
don't know what the
said by
reality is unless they
yeah,
agree with the government 100% or with
yeah,
the media 100%. And if you don't
yeah,
trust either 100%, you're kind of lost to which to
yeah.
believe.
Like there isn't. I don't believe that there is like evil people in Brazil, like or people. I think there's a lot of misinformed people. And when you look at like the government and the way president has expressed himself, he has completely and mostly revoked like dictatorial phrases, and also like some really controversial stuff that I would say that is linked to um, how to say it. Like talking about that is like putting food on X because a lot of people disagree hardly with it or agree hardly with it. We
Yeah,
call it
it's the
like
same in the US, I think.
yeah,
It's hard to say anything without being really ridiculed
because
or like
yeah, because it's really hard like for me to talk about our government without saying it's had um, genocide stuff or
mm,
dictatorial stuff or because we had like a dictatorship in 64 to 85
mm,
and 64 to 70 was like the worst phase of it and then started losing power, but we had like a dictatorship and it's called dictatorship uh, even by history books and perceived by other historians as dictatorship, which is nowadays contested by own Brazilian people and the president, which is weird. But anyway, uh, we have a lot of revisionist history here
yeah.
because it's yeah. And a lot of people were murdered and killed and tortured by 64 to 70s. And some of the torturers and murderers of that time and government, like military, are revisited. Like uh, we have like we don't like our president like to call them heroes of the time.
Right. Yeah. So there's like some nativist attempt to legitimize
Yeah, legitimize and
legitimize the past atrocities or the past
yeah, yeah, and
dictatorship in the current
yeah,
government, and it
yeah.
kind of is flipping history, known
On its
history, in a
head, yeah,
really opposite weird direction.
yeah. It's like it's really weird. It's really weird. Like
Yeah,
uh,
unfortunately, I think that that is a
a
something
common
that's consistently happening across the
across the
world.
world. Yeah,
Yeah, and a lot of different countries are
yeah.
having different levels of that experience.
It's yeah. In like my father's belief on that. Like my fathers aren't like the worst kind of people. They are still on the bandwagon of the actual government because they
Of the
feel they've
current
been
government.
because they feel they've been robbed by the last government 12 years.
Why do they
Like
feel
they,
robbed? What's like the
um,
reason they feel betrayed?
propaganda and inflated numbers. Like it's not really like the last 12 years of government were really like that bad if you compare it to some governments that we had and the actual government if you look at numbers. But there is like the COVID stuff, which will always be like underlying excuse for the actual government, where they're gonna
Mm.
call like the numbers false or affected by COVID, or like because there was too much opposition, the government couldn't like function.
Do something. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. It's like
it's the boy who cry
they have
wolf.
an excuse for
Yeah,
anything and everything, so they don't have to
yeah,
do anything.
yeah. It's this that and I'm just forgetting the word that would define it better, like the actions. Um, but it's like
Hypocritical.
yeah. I would say hypocritical, but it's really like um, I don't remember the exact name. Hold up, I need to see.
Yeah.
Let's see.
ALK is looking up the word so that he could
Yeah,
accurately reflect his feelings.
but it's uh, uh, it's the same. Like we would define it best. Yeah, fascism. That's the word. I'm sorry.
Fascism.
Yeah, fascism. It's the better word of the describe mostly on the way things are perceived here by some time. Like there is like a part who would really oversaturate and complicate things. Of course, there's always the part that would
Like to
make
overwhelm
things,
people with so much information
yeah,
that
or
that
like call it things that are like complex, make things more complicated than they should be, or like have like a mass hysteria about it
mm,
in a way that makes
is
the old fascists use that as a way to recall them as not fascists. If that makes
mm,
sense.
does
Of
that
course, there is, but it's why it's used like why many people believe that it's not fascism because there is the anti-fascism inside the new fascism here in Brazil
interesting.
because they are perceived as anti-fascist, but there is the whole propaganda of fascism inside the anti-fascism, and why people are being hysterical about it and like being really subjuged or being like really worried and like I think it's their right to be worried and the right to be angry about it. People use that angriness and their worriness as a way to say, "See, this is not fascism," because
But
like they are exaggerating.
if they're
Yeah,
forcing compliance to their own view, then that, even though their own view is anti-fascism, by
yeah,
definition, by forcing others to comply with them, they then become fascists. Is that what
yeah,
you're saying, kind of?
yeah. They spin the thing around like if you're calling me a fascist, then you are the fascist. The
Right.
fascism is the people who call us fascism, and the dictatorship and like it's an example of how the left has like been persuaded here. I think you guys like have like example like with like I don't know like give an example like Bernie Sanders. We have like people will call him a communist and
Right. When he's
socialist.
really, yeah.
Yeah, socialist, but you know, he's not really a socialist, or like he likes it and he perceives it, but he will never like operate that thing, like in the South America.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
literally impossible the way things are constructed, but
Right.
they use that as
So they're using
anti-propaganda.
the association of the
Yeah,
word to
to like
create a negative effect on.
effect. And it's not only the far right he used it, but the people who dispute with him on the left or center that uses that propaganda to like pull him down. So in the end, you just left with the center here. Like it's always the center. Like even though we have like a far right government, he's like using the center to move. If that makes sense,
Because
because
he's
there's so
a
many pressure from the sides. He uses the center, and he is like a centrist himself. But the way he speaks is far right and conservative.
interesting. So he's being
And
very manipulative, manipulating
yeah, well, a
the
lot.
situation. I guess
Yeah.
that's all politicians, though.
Self politicians. But here it's some things that yeah, it's really bad. Like the Jesus thing, and there is if you like just like find Bolsonaro quotes on,
Yeah.
on Google, you're gonna find few like
Well, our former president said similarly horrendous
yeah.
things.
Uh,
So
uh,
I could imagine that it's
he
something
Trump
similar.
was Bolsonaro's favorite politician in the world. He would like there is a really funny photo of Bolsonaro giving the Trump the 9 shirt, the 10 shirt, I'm sorry, 10 Brazilian soccer shirt. And 10 on Brazil is like the big player on the team, like the guy who does the goals and appears more, like
Yeah,
Cristiano
yeah.
Ronaldo is 10, for example. I don't know if it's 10 or 9 or not, but it's like the 10, Messi is the 10. Maradona was the 10, Pelé was the 10, and Trump gave us the 90 shirt, like it's like I don't know 20, like it's a random number to just represent how much like our president looks up to your ex-president, and how much like your ex-president was like, what's this dipshit doing here? So it's really this type of relation. We call it stray dog type of feeling. We
Like
had
he
like
was running
this,
up, like being excited to be next to
yeah,
the
yeah.
big dog or something.
We call it stray dog complex. It's really common here,
Yeah, using that
especially
phrase is common.
yeah.
Yeah, I've
We
never
call it
heard that one
like
before.
that. Really?
Uh,
Yeah, it's stray dog. Like it treats the things like a stray dog. Like it sees the big house and you want to be in the big house, or see like a really rich dog, or like a homegrown dog and wants to be like the
yeah,
dog,
yeah.
like the stray dog complex.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have another question going back to your art too. On your Instagram it says that you are colorblind.
Yeah, I have I think it's Deutanotopia. I'm not really sure if that's the right name in English, but
Hmm.
I can see all the colors when I confuse them on
Which
single
ones do you
parallels.
confuse? Do you know?
Blue, red, green, and brown mostly, and purple.
And they all overlap into
Yeah,
similar.
I found out that the Subway logo was green 5 years ago.
What
Like
did
I
you
was
think
like
it was before? Or
red,
do you? Oh, wow.
red. There's a really fun joke my friend made when I told him I was colorblind. He says, "So you always saw like two Mario's, just one big and one small, like from Luigi and Mario?" And I was like, "No, I can see the colors sometimes, most of the times." But like someday I was like, I really like the subway color is red, but I think it's weird that it is red and the whole subway building is green. And this guy was, and my friend was like, blue is the whole logo is green. I was like, no, it's not. Then I looked to the logo and said, yeah, it is green. Like I bought this Pocky and I
Yeah.
had to ask my girlfriend if what color this was, because I was thinking it was blue, but I was like, this
Oh,
is
it's
maybe
purple.
purple.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had to ask her if this what colors it is,
So does
like
it
specifically.
depend too on the tone and the darkness of the color that
Yeah. And you
affects your
can
perception?
see, yeah, and you can see my drawings that the older ones when I found out I was colorblind with 18, 16. Like, didn't know my whole life. I just found out like 10 years ago because I was, no, oh, it was with 18, 19. Because I wasn't, like, seeing things on the board of the college. And it was because he had like little squares and not because my eyes, I had like eyesight problems. It's because he has like little black squares and the color of the things was typed was confusing my brain with the color of
Mm.
the squares. And I found out because I went to like to the doctor and I was like, I can't see. And he was like, no, you can see, your eyes are perfect. The problem is that you can see colors. And I was like, what the fuck? And then he starts showing me the numbers on it. And I remember because I took my mom with me to go to the doctor with me. And if I'm colorblind, my mother is colorblind, actually, because of how genes work.
Mm.
If I'm colorblind, then my mother is colorblind. And she was like, I'm not colorblind. And then she was colorblind also. And it was really funny because she found out with 40 years
Oh,
almost
wow.
that she was colorblind.
But it's not totally obvious. Like sometimes you can see colors
Yes.
in
I
certain
know
situations.
I know colors because of the way they are exposed on the chromic thing when I'm painting or using things. But I had a lot of problems when I was younger uh, with painting with paint and other stuff because they come separated on cases. So I'll be like, I'm gonna paint the grass green, and I was using brown. Or when I realized it, when I was using brown, was just paint the whole thing because I always thought it was like a different type of green or just like a darker green or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. So I have like, I wrote a question down here and it was, I really enjoy your palettes, like the palette you use. It's a little, I think it seems to me that you might limit your palette to less than 7 colors or 5 colors, something like that.
Yeah.
And I wrote that question and then I went to your Instagram and I remembered I had saw previously that you mentioned that you're color blind. So fusing those into one question, how do you choose your palette creatively? And then how does being colorblind affect your choice?
I always thought about it as because I'm colorblind, then color theory is easier for me. It just works out because I'm I'm like seeing more the contrast and saturation of colors and how they talk to each other rather than what color it is. So I'm not really like stuck to the color. Like I want to do a yellow thing. I can focus on that specifically. Or if I'm doing a yellow thing, I'm using the colors that talk to it together, and not. I'm not like I'm using yellow and pink. I'm not. I'm using like I'm using the whole conversation of things happening because I'm not seeing the color. I'm seeing the way the color reacts with the another color. So
Mm,
most of the time I'm painting. I know what is what basically, or I go a lot to the eye drop
mm-hmm.
thing because I do a lot of digitally. So I look where it is just to make sure, like I'm painting someone, not like like green, like another base color, green, or other things. Sometimes it might evoke green because I use a few filters later, but I'm just like, oh, the art's not just let it roll. But I'm usually more worried about the conversation of the piece rather than the
So
color itself
more a gradation of the saturation
and
is what you're
contrast.
interested in
Yeah,
than the color choice itself.
yeah. I think the right word would be contrast. The key word would be contrast rather than saturation because saturation sometimes I don't see. I can
Okay.
see a really saturation color compared to other because really saturated green and really saturated red I can't see. I need a midterm to difference both. So
Mm,
like when I'm watching the colors on I'm driving a car, I know there is red and why there's green because of the order
Mm.
and not because of the color specifically sometimes because they are both on kind of same saturation. That's why there's really not a problem on driving while being colorblind because all
Right.
colors are ordinated in a way that you can know the order rather than
So
the
were you
color.
driving before you knew that you were
Yeah,
colorblind?
yeah,
And
and
without knowing it, you just
yeah,
operated based on the order of the colors on the
yeah,
stoplight.
yeah. And like my brother would always like be like, I don't know why I can't see the colors on the stop sign,
Oh, is he
uh,
colorblind as well?
yeah. Because if my mother is, then all her sons will be colorblind.
Will be. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
wow.
technically,
It's a strong genetic
yeah.
trait.
If I'm colorblind, then there is a chance of only a daughter of mine being colorblind, if I'm not mistaken. But if I have like a boy, he's never gonna be colorblind. There's no way he can be colorblind, if that makes sense. It's the only
So
way.
it only crosses gender because your
Yeah.
mom gave it to
No,
you.
and actually, if my mom had a daughter, she would be colorblind too. Because when the female was colorblind, then her
100%.
son's 100% colorblind. If
Oh,
I'm colorblind, then I think it's only 50% of chance of having a son colorblind, if it's a girl. And if like my daughter is colorblind, she has like 50% of being colorblind. Then if she is colorblind, she will have only sons colorblind. That's how the gene grows through. But
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the chance of ending in here on this side of the family is it's there.
Well, it obviously has not limited you and your use of color as an artist. And like, so do you um limit the amount? Because not just the way that you use colors, which I think would be affected by your color blindness, but when you're establishing your palette, do you restrict yourself to a certain number of colors? Because that was another thing that struck me was the
I,
the limits that kind of give more strength and more feeling of style to your art.
I try to. I try because I don't think like because I'm colorblind I'm trying to limit it. But because I feel strong about the color, I tend to use it on certain things. But the thing is, before I started being an illustration artist, I was a designer. And having the colors to emulate feelings are like really my primary process of thought. So I'm really big on one color is because usually I'm trying to emulate one feeling specifically. And that's where the whole thing starts. Because not only I'm trying to learn how to draw most of the time while I'm obviously drawing and painting, I'm learning to paint and use the way that people use colors also on other aspects of science. And there are things that are prettier for me than other people because I look at it and like, oh, this is awesome. And people look at just a bunch of colors and I'm like, yeah, that's why it's awesome. Because I see the way the colors are punched together. And if you see my older work, they're way more linear and not so much saturated. They're
Hmm.
on the middle spectrum or more downside. Because at the time I was exploring more the way I see contrast of colors because when they're oversaturated, I don't see difference. So usually I'm doing my work and I saturate after I deliver it. So I paint the whole thing and then I change the saturation a little bit because I know I'm painting it just to combine it. And I know people like will be more interested on it being more saturated. Uh, Sometimes I'm not really seeing the color at all, but I'm really projecting and knowing that the saturation will be more comfortable for other people rather than mine.
I would love to see like if you on your Instagram gave an example of before and after. Like if
Oh
you made a
yeah,
post to show that, that would be so interesting to see what you create at and then the adjustments you make for
yeah,
your audience based on your
yeah,
perception that the saturation will,
yeah,
be perceived better by them or that they'll
yeah.
enjoy it more.
that will be really fun to do. And like if you look at process videos of mine, you can see I have posted a few ones. You can see me changing the channels a little bit when I'm
Oh
done with the
yeah.
video.
Is that on your Instagram too? The process video or?
Yeah, I think there's a few pieces I posted. Usually I don't post much of the process because it's mostly like me zooming in and redoing lines that I think there should be like a little dot on it. So I don't think it's really
Yeah, but
that
even that
cool.
stuff I think is interesting for people because any
Yeah,
insight into the process is always fascinating.
it's really um, there's like my own pet peeve with my projects that there's not enough saturation sometimes. I feel I need to saturate more things, especially if I'm trying to convey a few things to like try.
I don't think so. I love it how it is. I,
Like when it's done, it's done. But there's when I'm like rewatching my stuff, like to see what I
yeah,
would
is
change.
there one that you could speak to directly that you would want to have saturated more?
I think everything like um,
I'm gonna peek
from
at your Instagram right now as we talk.
from before, like I posted the like there's a few ones I would say I'm just looking at it, sorry. There's a few ones I would say like nowadays I'll do way more saturation wise. I'm gonna link to you. I'm gonna send you like
Yeah, no,
on
I
the
love that, and I love that you use reoccurring colors. That a color will occur. So I'm looking at, for example, your Jack and Sally one, which is a more recent one, and the color of her
yeah
hair and the color of her skin tone is reproduced in the color
yeah
of the framing
the idea
flowers.
came from doing t-shirt work because
Ah,
this was a t-shirt, so I need to like limit the colors. Basically, like this is a t-shirt my friend did
yeah,
when we had like two companies of t-shirts, like homemade t-shirts. This was our first one, then another one. But mostly we would do t-shirts, and I don't remember the name of this on English, how it's printed. I don't remember, but it's like
screen
uh,
printed,
yeah, screen printed. So you need to have one screen for each color.
right?
That makes sense. So we need
Yep.
to make t-shirts that like to be more affordable. We need to make only 3 or 4 colors. So we learn to like reproduce the colors and reuse the colors on the whole image. So it has only 4 to 5 colors. And the idea of redoing it, it's also very design based because it makes easier for people to follow with their eyes, the whole thing. So I try to redo that. Like if you see the chopper drawing on the background of it. There's only 3 colors, the background, and the chopper has like
Oh,
more colors
interesting.
on
Yeah,
it.
so that's great insight into your some of the restrictions that you use
Yeah,
design
there's
wise to help you
there's
decide your palette.
there's a lot of things like that add up, like the color blindness, the way of trying to make things with less color and adapt it to printing and thinking about how it's going to be printed and how it's going to be used overall. And then that idea like I think makes like a whole mess and then just bones forms the project the
Yeah,
final.
it's I love that all of that has an influence on your work. And you just sent me one that's from it looks
I
like
think
it's
it's
from June
yeah
2020.
yeah
And is this an original character?
yes
Yeah, a very cool original character, a guy walking. He has a skeleton tattoo on his hand and
so
a
I
scarf
would do
on.
like more saturation and more contrast on the piece if I
You
did
would if you
today.
were doing now.
Yeah,
Which parts in particular? So he's wearing a red scarf and he has a orange
I think
leather coat.
just the whole color is like a more different one. Like I would change the colors at all, just the saturation and maybe the contrast or a few things, and maybe the way it's shadow, like the shadows are done, and probably like the lines would be a bit different also. But the whole thing, the whole character, I like a lot the different types of thing I put on it, and I like to
I love the
develop the.
animals that are like, it looks like squirrels, but kind of like koalas.
Yeah, it's every time I like to do animals. I really like to draw animals, but I really don't want to draw only animals. I like to draw persons too. So I like to make both like gel together when I'm
Yeah.
drawing because like I feel like it's not interesting just to make one animal. I like to put more things and details on it, and so I and when I do animals, I never do like just an animal. I put a lot of details on animals. It's really one of my favorite things to do and reimagine. It's maybe because of Pokemon, I don't know, but I really like
Yeah.
it.
And you
And
do some Pokemon as well.
yeah, I had a lot of fun doing Pokemon.
So
Actually, it's
when you first sit down to start a drawing like this one or any one you do, what is the starting point for your inspiration and making
I
sure that you stay true
search
to yourself?
I search for fashion sites
Fashion.
and yeah, I try to see like sometimes like I got a random year like suppose 2011 and I go like 2000 I want to do like a summer piece and I go to like 2011 summer and I draw inspiration from them like way people are clothed because I don't I'm not really like into like fashion or fashion week or those things. But I think sometimes that clothing is such an exuberant one that I want to like give my spin on it. And when I'm seeing, I'm like just drawing the whole package and the whole character, and then adding like RPG elements to it. I'm adding like old stuff to it, and those things are like, oh, this would be cool for a person to wear or like walk around and people would look at it and be like, oh, this is cool, this is rad, you know. And then I started like the process. So it's like I get like the features of the people, I get the size of the people, the clothing they're wearing, and then I start to put my own spins on it. So I see a picture that I like, let's suppose 2013 summer collection, and I found a guy. I think it's really cool, and I like the pose and I like the whole way the body is structured, and I start drawing inspiration from it. I think I started doing it because I heard that the way the guy who did JoJo Bizarre Adventures started
I was
drawing.
just gonna say JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I was literally
Yes,
like,
yeah,
I was getting set up to ask if you know JoJo's Bizarre Adventure
yeah,
because it
I love
sounds
it.
very resonant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it because Araki, I think, had only model magazines as his
Yeah, and a lot of
inspirations.
Italian, like I think specifically Italian fashion,
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
yeah, and he says on interviews that he would like get the magazines, redraw over it, and just do his characters. So they would look at that pose, but they would look buff and different, and there's
And very
where he
unique.
started.
I mean, he's known for like like very
Yeah, yeah,
unique postures
yeah,
and poses that
yeah,
accentuate like things that would just not really be
yeah.
practical, stances that would not be practical in real life.
No, no, and that's where I got a lot of my reference, and I love JoJo. I used to have like a small Joseph here on my desk. I don't know where it is now.
What's your quick side question, but what's your favorite
Art,
story or arc?
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, seven. It's like I'm just I don't watch more anime because I don't. I feel it spends a lot of time, and I prefer to read manga.
Mm.
Just the manga. But part seven was like my favorite part of all time. It used to be part four because of the whole thing, but I think part seven is just way more built up, and Araki knows what he was doing at the time he did the part seven. He was really focused on doing,
Which one
and
is part seven again?
is one
Joel.
that have Jesus, the parts of
Maybe I'm not
Jesus.
familiar with seven. The last one I
Yeah.
really engaged with was with Jolene.
Oh, it's six. It's right before seven.
Okay, so part seven
And,
is
and
the guy with the sailor hat.
yeah,
Okay.
it's
Yeah, I haven't read that one
Jiro
actually. So
and,
now
and
you're going to
Johnny.
motivate me to read it.
Man, it's the best arc. I think Araki never did. I really like Berserk, but like discussing Berserk, it's a whole other level of things because Berserk
Right.
is really tough. And I think like Berserk, I really like Hunter x Hunter also. Like those are my favorite arcs, like Chimera arc, Golden Age arc, and Part 7 are really like my go-to mangas. I have like under less known mangas that I love, like 21 Century Boys, 20th Century Boys,
Yeah, that one's
uh,
fantastic. I've read that.
from Urazaki, I think. Urasawa, yeah. I don't remember his first name, but Urasawa is amazing. Like Pluto is amazing. I love Pluto. I like Monster, but I prefer 20th Century Boys. Billy Bat was really good. And but JoJo is like, I know Part 7 is really good. It's like the I think Araki really outdid himself while writing it. It has the crazy things like Jesus parts in the mid of United States, and they're running with horses. And there's like,
Oh, so that's not so part 7 is Steel Ball Run.
yeah, Steel Ball
Uh,
Run. Yeah, it has Johnny. It has like the Dusk Stand. Uh, it's really good. It's really good. It has the president of the United States as the villain, which is his name is Funny Valentine, and you don't know which one is the real Funny Valentine because his power is to draw people from other dimensions. So to be on that dimension, he draw like the most gorgeous Valentine. So there is a lot of Valentines, like fat Valentines and skinny Valentines, but the most gorgeous one with the better chin, it's on that dimension and on the better way. And like his power, it's by he can access other dimensions by doing like he needs to like for one side like for example it needs to for one thing to touch another and like do a some sort of I don't know how it's in English like dobra. It's really weird like how he does it. He needs like a door, but anything can be a door, so he can push anything from it. And it starts getting really crazy how like he does the things with the manga
yeah. Have you
and like
seen the recent Netflix adaptation of one of the Rohan stories on
no, I
Netflix? They have
haven't.
like 4
I
episodes.
I read it. I like it. I see on manga, but I didn't saw the Netflix episodes.
Yeah, then I grew tired of some of the art in the anime for JoJo.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like I guess a side series, a special mini series that's a
Mm-hmm.
focus on Rohan. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, it was I enjoyed it a lot. The art was really good. And
Yeah.
like you said, the con- concepts of how things like it's just very outrageous.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
concepts of
Yeah.
how he ties in his
Yeah.
um, metaphysical like stand worlds and ideas into real world, and how then all of the people are strategizing around these really weird concepts.
Yeah. I think like
It's really
I think
fun.
it's not a spoiler or anything, but one of my favorite scenes of like part 4 is when Josuke's riding the bike and there is a baby in front of him, so he needs to like to break the bike, explode the bike, and rebuild it so he can
Yeah.
go. Yeah, it's like when I'm like I had friends who never seen it, and I'm trying to sell the idea, and I always tell things like that. Like then they go like, "Oh, this is amazing! I need to read it and see it." Like nowadays it's more different, but when I started reading, we only had the ovas, I think, from 90s, and I just the manga. And when the anime started being doing, it was really great because you I think the anime is a really big fan service, especially part 3, because I think
Yeah.
I never got like a pop from seeing like the opening from anime. And there's all the Easter eggs on the opening. Like the part 3 has the Easter egg of the dog, the star of the dog. I don't
Uh-huh.
remember. And there's this, and the last opening there is like a actually on the openings there is Jotaro doing the finger, but you can see only on frame to frame. and it's really
Oh, I didn't
crazy
know that.
what
Yeah.
they do that because I think the last opening he breaks it like the time freeze and they start fighting right on the last episode of the third season. But
Did you know that there's a live action movie?
yeah, I know there is a live action movie of the part four, not part three. Is there a part three live action movie?
No, just the that one.
There's a part
Yeah.
four. Yeah, I have a friend who is really big on Japanese stuff, and he knows like everything. He knows like like oh, the voice actor for Dio is the same voice actor for X Y Z, and he knows all the voice actors on Japanese and the whole cultural spirit. So like he does a lot of I go for him to do reviews of things. So like I never saw like the live action, but I go for him like, oh, this live action good? It's really great. Okay, so
Yeah, I saw it. It was good. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I was surprised.
yeah,
I didn't
really,
think they could make it that good.
yeah. My friend like really like it. I never saw that because I have a lot of friends that likes a lot of anime, but I don't see it. It's just reviews for me. Like I'm
Yeah.
lagging behind a lot of things on One Piece, but people are like, "Oh, I need to read the new One Piece," and I go, "Go ahead, you can tell me. I have no problem. You telling me. It probably like sounds better when you tell me when I read it sometimes. So just tell
Yeah.
me.
Does the Iraqi like the cover art for JoJo at all influence your use of colors? Because I was just thinking,
Yeah,
like
I think
even the way that
so.
they portray Rohan in color reminds me
Hmm.
of like you use some purples and greens, and I don't know if those are tertiary colors or not, but also, and then you'll have these kind of brighter standout colors and then a more mild brownish skin tone and things like that that really has a nice dynamic range of colors.
I think
um,
it's the encouragement that that most influential. I don't look at it like, oh, he uses this in this color, so this is good. It's more the
right.
you can use anything you want since it doesn't matter. People are gonna like it, and it doesn't matter if they are accustomed to seeing normal things or just normal palettes. You can use it, and you can like try and apply it. And I think
So
it's
you could
that
try to stretch out of things that are common
common. Yeah,
practice, go
yeah.
outside of the bounds.
Yeah, I think it's the encouragement that makes that is the most reference thing. It's not like looking at it and being like, oh, Araki uses pink and yellow and etc. It's just he uses all the colors and he's not afraid to use it and he's not afraid to repaint it and people don't care about it. You know, people not are not like some like if people are gonna be picky about his work, they wouldn't be reading in the first place because
Right.
it's so dense and so different and so intense that if people were gonna be picky about it, they would be there. You know, it's not for you.
Yeah, and
It's really not for
actually
you.
that's why they love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why you fall in love with it because he's like, you can do this and not matter about like the particular rules we do sometimes. I'm not really the rules. We're just doing things because it's easier and etc. And when he's telling you that it's like not only him but his whole team, he has a whole team of competent people behind him. It's like go ahead, like use it. You know, some like if everyone uses it and likes it, it'd be normal. Sometimes, you know. My girlfriend was
Right.
telling me that you know that the meme, "Hey fellow kids," you
Hey
know
fellow
the
kids.
yeah, "Hey fellow kids," like with what's his name was the actor, but you know the meme.
No,
The meme
I
is
haven't seen it. I'm gonna look it up.
no, it's a "Hey fellow kids" meme. It's so old that right now he has the same effect when you try to use it. So like kids don't understand what you're still talking about. For example,
Oh, Steve, is this Steve Buscemi? Is that his name?
yeah, it's something like that. So
Oh, yeah.
this is
Okay, I
so
know that.
old that when you use it, if you say like, "Hey, fellow kids," oh, this is so hey, fellow kids, people not gonna understand. Like the kids not gonna understand because it's it is so hey, fellow kids that it works against himself right now. You know, it's really weird because it's an old concept that you use to like recreate old concepts, but you are being old if you're using the old concept. It's like we gone past that point. You know.
It's like hyper meta.
Yeah, it's
Like,
hyper meta stuff.
it's getting too deep.
Yeah. And that's what JoJo is for, right? This is
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah. It's going so deep that I don't even know. But it's
part
interesting to
five
think about
is
not only the concept of stands and all of these really weird solutions to these weird problems in a weird world, but also him stretching the bounds of the imagination in the art, the way that he structures the human body, and also like the colors he uses. So that's the first time I kind of conceptualized him stretching the bounds of the imagination, not just
yeah,
in story, but also in his art.
yeah. The whole thing. I think it's encouragement for you to
And
do the same thing, but do the things you like the
yeah,
whole. I think that's the most the positive thing I take off. I think life is about getting negatives and making positives, or like I said,
I love
and
that.
and I think the like um I had a time of my life I got really sick depression, and I got like really I lost a lot of weight, a lot of weight, and
You
and I
lost
told
a lot of what?
weight, weight,
Oh, wait.
weight, yeah, and I was like, I was like, oh, I'm feeling really pretty, like not like didn't felt before, but I'm feeling good, and I would say for people like it's really scary how much weight I lost, and people would be like, but you like it, and I would be like, it's not that I like it, it's just I I fondly grow the idea that yeah, I lost weight, I got depressed, I got all these problems, but I gotta start liking the way it is and turn it into something like a positive right now, you know, because I didn't have the option to like choose my weight at some point of time because of depression issues, and I still don't have it because metabolism and stuff. But you can like perceive the way you see things,
Mm.
and try to like positive re-alert yourself of things. So I think things that are good are like encouragement. I usually for reference for my art, like, oh, this is a good encouragement. So good thing. So
Yeah,
or
I like framing things around you, even if it's not direct. Like
yeah.
Araki didn't just do this just for you, but
No,
at the same time, he's indirectly encouraging you. And
yeah,
I've never thought about framing things from the
yeah,
perspective of encouragement.
yeah.
Like
I think,
positive, negative, yeah, I think about those things, but thinking about it as encouragement and some sort of motivation,
uh,
um, and like yeah, it's a
it's because
sometimes
you're
I think
looking.
about it as inspiration, but encouragement is a little bit more personal, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's it's more like this guy look at someone and went like, I can do it. So why I can look at this guy and be like, I can do it, you know? And I'm not really trying to compete with anyone. I'm not trying to be like anyone. I'm just looking at this guy and being like, he had someone that he looked at and went with the idea that he could do it. So I am not getting it, you know. Why am I not looking at this guy and being like, yeah, he's also a model for me, even though he doesn't know me, he never gonna know me. Maybe he never gonna see something from me. He never gonna like hear from me, but here is still encouragement for me. And even though he didn't do this for me, he can be a base for something, especially for me. And it's not like a parasocial type of thing. It's more of a. I think he had his reasons to do it, so I can use this lesson to like try to apply to my life and try to do it. It's not because of that he's more or less than someone, but you know, it's encouragement. It's a way of seeing encouragement to things.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. I like that. Yeah, not just inspiration, but encouragement. I'm gonna start
Yeah.
to think about things in that way, I think.
Yeah, this is like the culture thing. If
Right.
he's living like that way, he must have his reasons, you know.
Yeah,
Maybe not a good reason, but it's a reason nonetheless.
yeah. Right. Well, we just spoke for 2.5 hours. I think
Oh yeah,
if there's I think that's a perfect place to end it because
yeah,
your kind of conceptualization of inspiration as encouragement is something that's inspiring for me. But Do you have anything else that you want to mention or talk about before we sign off?
Not really. I just want to thank you about the opportunity. Like I said, if you would like me speak, I'm gonna speak a lot. I'm sorry if anything broken with my English and other things.
No need
It's
to
hard
apologize at all. No, it
to
was fantastic, and
it's hard
I'm so
to
glad that you are joining me.
yeah. It's really good. I just love your questions. I think I talked a lot, like diverged a lot from it sometimes, but I love your questions. It's really there's a few things I never I thought of, but I never thought of someone would ask me specifically for that. So it's really cool. You made me a lot comfortable with all the teams and stuff. I have like nothing to add on, but just also encourage you to keep doing it because you're really awesome with it.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I hope that we both continue to grow together and that you will join me again sometime as things
Yeah,
develop. And if you ever want to come on to talk about any specific developments in your career or your
yeah.
art or your life, yeah, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if you have anything you want to talk about, and bring me in if I know any teams as specific, I think it's really cool to do this a few
Awesome.
times. I know it was kind of hard to like make the appointment sometimes, but it's really like a time thing because like I said, like I'm going off work and I really reserve sometimes, and there's days there's really rushed.
Yeah,
Like
no problem. No problem.
uh,
It's pretty flexible for me, so that's another thing that's beautiful about the world that we live in with the internet and I could
uh,
communicate to somebody in Brazil just by DMs on Instagram and we could
yeah.
arrange a meeting. So this is definitely born out of the world in which we operate and the world in which you are connecting with comic writers in the US and comic writers all across the world. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and people could, I know that you're active on Instagram and I didn't write it down and it is, yeah, as I expected, at ALK Merlin,
Yeah.
ALKMerlin.
Yeah. All my
Are there any
social,
other places that people should look for you or any other projects specifically that you want people to know about in the short term?
right now, not really. I think like mostly like if you want to find me on any socials, it's ALK Merlin. And there's really not really a big project coming out right now, or that I know the dates of specifically. There is big projects like Shelved, but they're going sometimes it really don't depends on me on when they're gonna go out in the end. So let's keep like under the reps. If anything
Yeah,
pops
yeah.
up, it's
And of
gonna be
course,
there.
let's make sure we shout out Lanier Burton at From
Yeah,
Scratch Comics. And if you want to see any of ALK, I'll call you ALK's work,
yeah.
um, you
By
could check out
Pennywise.
Penny Peculiar, which came out, I guess, just
Pennywise.
on
Penny Peculiar. Yeah,
Valentine's Day 2021.
yeah.
And you illustrated that whole comic from the front cover all the way back to the back page, right?
Yes, and we also like we discussed. We had like a lot of talks on how characters are perceived and how the stories develops and how the whole thing is meant to be perceived. Um, and Aaron even told me have things under the wraps for more things about it. So I just let him be him.
Yeah, we're excited
He's a
for
great
more,
guy.
and
Yeah, he's a great
I
guy.
think that project is in particular is self-exploratory and
Yeah,
dealing with psychology and
yeah,
personalities in a really unique way. So
yeah.
awesome. All right, well, it was a great conversation. I look forward to tracking and following your art as you continue to
Thank you.
develop, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Yeah, the same. Thank you. Thank you so much,
All
Kevin.
right. Until next time, enjoy your
Until next
random.
time. Oh, thank you.
Take care. Hello, my fellow randoms, and welcome to the post-show debriefing for our 29th episode with ALK Merlin. It was a great conversation. I had a lot of fun, and some key takeaways are just that I am always inspired and excited by the possibilities presented to us because of the ways that we can now connect with other people across the globe so easily. I just had a 2-hour plus conversation with ALK Merlin about the differences in our cultures and countries, and yet the way that we are coming together through the internet and through this connectivity, which is relatively new. And through that, I can learn about the way that he lives, the way that his country is evolving and dealing with contemporary issues, and find some similarities and some differences with the way that we here in the US, my country, my home country, are operating. So I always find that ability to connect as something that I just feel really fortunate to have in my life, that I'm able to connect, that we all have in our lives, right? But that I didn't have when I was like a little kid. I wasn't able to just speak with somebody in a village outside of a main metropolitan area in Brazil until relatively recently, right? Especially with the clarity that we have now, stable internet and stable apps technology to carry these voices. And it's not just our voices and this kind of direct communication, but also indirect communication. Like when I saw Alk's art in Lanier Burton's Penny Peculiar, and then when I went to his Instagram, I was just really blown away by his stylization, his consistency, and really, I think you heard over the course of the episode, wanted to get into how he arrived at such a well-defined style. I think it is well-defined. I love all the work that he's putting out, and I'm excited to see as he continues to progress and pursue perfection in his craft and just continually getting better when he's already great. Not to mention also getting into his process a little bit, the way that he artifacts different elements into one character design. He doesn't have extravagant backgrounds in most of his pictures. They're very focused on the subject, but around the subject, he'll have like animals crawling and very small, but it's not so intricate, right? There's not so much to his pictures that it's overwhelming, but there are artifacts that are attached and inserted to create a very interesting and dynamic character design, which I personally love. So yeah, I'm just really, obviously you can tell I enjoy his artwork, and I'm looking forward to him pushing the boundaries of what is possible for him moving forward and continuing to connect with people who are all over the world in different pockets of different countries that are not necessarily in metropolitan areas, and hearing their stories, how they were inspired to create what they're creating and how they're leveraging the technology that we have available to us today to get their work out there into the hands of interested parties like myself. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you have anything that I didn't say here in the key takeaways segment of this episode that you think deserved being pointed out, please do holler at us at What's Your Random on Instagram. Comment on any of the photos that are attached. There's usually 3 posts per an episode, so comment on any of those. If you have any key takeaways of your own, you could also hit us up on Twitter or Facebook at What's Your Random. And until next time, enjoy the random.